This conference will now be recorded.
Ms. O'Connell.
Here.
And Mr. Kish.
Here.
Sir, you do have a quorum.
Okay. So let's begin the meeting.
Okay. You do have a revised agenda, and the revised agendas have been put out.
Actually, you ran out of the.
Yeah, you ran out of them.
And the
I had
bottom,
50.
the bottom of the stack was the
The old
15
one,
item,
yeah.
and then.
That's okay, can't do anything now.
Yep. Okay, so we'll have approval of the agenda. That would be the revised agenda, which has included item 5, a proposal from Zeman on parcel 13. Okay. So if the board is in agreement with the agenda as presented, then I need a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Okay, I motion to approve the agenda. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that will take us to approval of any audience comments on agenda items? None?
Is that number 3 on the agenda?
Yes, and it's just regulated to the agenda items.
Okay. If I'm correct, I'd like to speak to the filling the vacancy on the board. I believe that's an agenda item.
Certainly. Could you state your name, please?
Yes, of course. My name's Gene Lee. This is my wife, Sue Warren. We're at 152 Venus K. We've been full-time residents of the fort for 12 years, and for probably 7 years, I've known Rita Bradkey, who has volunteered to fill the vacancy on the board.
Okay.
First and foremost, I trust Rita's judgment. I think everybody needs to know that she is a nurse. She has helped me and everybody that knows her with various medical issues. She's qualified, eminently qualified. She's got a positive attitude. She loves the board, and we'd like to have her represent us on the board. I appreciate all you board members volunteering to spend your time serving us on the board. Every board needs new and fresh eyes and insights. And I think Lita would bring just that to this board. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name. Pardon me?
Diane Hasbrook,
Okay.
live at 25069. I have known Rita for many times, both of us being from Indiana. She is an absolutely fabulous person, extremely organized, very helpful to everyone that has ever known her. She just goes way and above to help anyone on anything. And whatever she is doing, she gets down to the bottom of everything. She is very organized, overly organized. She gets down to anything that she works on. She does an awesome job. I would recommend her to the board. I think she would be an asset to it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Yes. My name is Darla Scala, and I live at 25102 and I've lived at the board for 7 years. And I would like to recommend Rita Bradkey to be considered for the board. I've known Rita for 4 years. She loves the Port of the Islands and enjoys helping and serving wherever she's needed. Rita has a servant's heart. She's helped many people in the community. On a personal note, as some of you know, during the summer, my son had a traumatic accident. Rita was there for us, changing his dressing every day. She went over and above to help him. I don't know what we would have done without her. My family is eternally grateful. Rita volunteers on the Conservation Committee. She's a good communicator, gets along well with everyone. Rita is a positive, strong woman and will be an asset to the board. I highly recommend Rita Radke. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments on agenda items? Hearing none, no additional comments, none. We'll move on to the next item of business, and that would be the minutes for December 18th meeting. Has the board had an opportunity to review those?
Yes, and number 44, the board is awaiting a proposal from Soto's Lawn Service Incorporated. We aren't to remove the exotic vegetation. We said we weren't going to do that. We didn't ask him for that. It's on page 7 of my book.
Yes.
Okay.
It was mentioned, but we could strike it. They're your minutes, so it was discussed, and she heard it on the
But we
tape.
aren't awaiting a
Right, okay.
proposal.
Let's just strike that
Okay,
sentence.
let's strike it.
Okay.
Other than that, I thought it looked good.
Okay. Any other corrections or changes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes, or the minutes as amended?
I motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that would take us to item number 5, and this is, was something that was presented to the board. You had a copy of a letter, a proposal from Zeman for the purchase and development of the parcel that we call Parcel 13. And we had a preliminary meeting yesterday. Mr. Kish as your chairman, Mr. Benson, Mr. Cox, myself, and then our specialist on assessments was also there, Jennifer Miller, our controller. We discussed the proposal, and they asked for an opportunity to meet with the board, answer any questions, and I believe they are on the phone right now. Is it Jeff or Bruce or Ed?
You have Jeff Fannin here, the CEO, and I believe I heard Bruce earlier. Ed might be on, but I know he might not be able to come off mute.
Yes, Ed is on.
Bruce is there, yes.
Okay. Well, if you could, we talked yesterday, and you had indicated that this is a high-end RV park, unlike the one you have down the road, which was a project that you had purchased. And maybe tell us a little bit about your project.
Yeah, so we've been in business for, call it since 1983, private company, and we've been expanding into the RV business. And so we buy properties or we develop them. We recently developed a higher end luxury community in Palmetto, Florida called the Tides RV Resort. We're getting ready to break ground on another one up in that area called the Surf. And we think this would be a great addition, great area for RVers. Typically, they come down in, nice fifth wheels or, Class A's, motor coaches, and spend anywhere from 3 to 6 months with us, typically in the season. So they're not as transient as some people might think they are. Although we do allow, overnight and weekly stays, we typically see our properties get full right around now, and they stay down with us for quite some time, that 3 to 6 months. So we look forward to, if everything's agreed upon and we can get the zoning and go through everything we kind of discussed yesterday, we would love to be able to move forward with this project and develop an RV property on that parcel.
Okay. I think the board's got any questions of, yes, sir, go ahead.
You want me to?
Whoever
Any of you guys have any questions?
I talked to him yesterday. So.
Gentlemen, first of all, thank you. We appreciate it. And by no means do I want you to think we don't like you or don't want you. That's not the case. But over the past 15 years, this district has been rolled over by 4 different developers. And I'm not saying you're going to be the 5th, but I am trying to ensure that you're not the fit for our district. So I'd like to ask you a couple of questions because they drove us into the hole about $3.2 million, which is why we are selling the land to begin with. Having said that, don't take offense if I'm about to say these are just technical questions. My first question is about the proposal letter you sent, and to be clear, this is a public meeting, there's no confidentiality because the district is owned the land is owned by the district, so we can't do that. But, having said that, there is nothing in your letter that mentions high-end RV park. And to be honest, personally, selfishly, my one little vote, I would be way open to something like that. However, I Googled RV, and the term RV now extends to park models, trailers, all kinds of things. And you're looking at 300 units at 40 by 80 feet, which to me tells me it's an RV park. And I don't want to wish and hope that I'm hearing you right. I would like the letter revised to specifically state motorized high-end RV resort. That's number one. Number two, just to be clear to the board, I made this mistake. The purchase price is not what you're offering, it's what we're asking, I believe. And the reason I'm asking you that is because on the next line, it says, upon execution of this letter of intent, buyer and seller will promptly begin negotiating in good faith a purchase agreement. So that's something to think about. I am somewhat concerned about the impact, not your problem, ours, and we have our engineer here. According to the POICID website, it says we have about 220 ERCs left, and the old hotel is getting knocked down now, and I don't know, there's got to be at least 80 ERCs there, but that's not part of this parcel. So I have a question for you guys, where are we going to get the other 80 ERCs, if I'm right, according to the website? Everything else seems okay. I am pleased as hell that you want to do a due diligence period. The last developers that bought the old hotel didn't know what that was, which is a little scary to me. And I've researched you a lot, and you're a really strong company. You have deep pockets, which I like. I love your Tides facility. I looked at it in great detail. And if that's what you're proposing for here, we could become good friends pretty quickly. What I don't want to do is expose the people that live at Orchid Cove to a glorified trailer park, that being park models or trailers. And that's the difference. It's not a campground. And also you mentioned over 55, which is a huge attraction to the folks in this room. So if you could just help us with that, and then I have a couple other things.
Yeah, I mean, I think our our position on this property would be to build the Tides. I don't know if I could put only Class A, solely due to the fact that if you go through our Tides Resort, you have $300,000-$400,000 RVs that are tow behinds, right? That come and they are very nice and high end. We typically only allow 10, depending on the property, it has to be 10 years or newer, or it has to get our approval, because from an aesthetic standpoint, we're of the same, I believe we'd be similarly aligned in the fact that if we're bringing in these type of guests who have very high end RVs, we don't want a trailer sitting next to it because it would devalue our property, and that customer that we want might not come to that property. So we could work with you definitely on some language. We just, on the LOI, just to make it easy, we typically utilize RV when we're doing this. So I'm more than happy to work with some language, but I don't want to limit it so much where it's only going to be Class A's. Some of that's been done in the past on those Class A motor coaches has failed solely due to the fact that you've limited your customer base so much that you just can't get enough customers to be successful. But again, we are trying to build the Tides Resort at that, on that parcel. So if you've looked at the Tides, that's what we're trying to do. But more than willing to work with you on that. As it relates to the purchase price, Bruce, I don't have the LOI in front of me. I'm traveling. However, the price that we put in the LOI would be the price we're willing to pay. Typically, we then have that paragraph as it relates to negotiating a true purchase and sales agreement, a legal document that we want to work on as soon as everyone can agree, or as soon as it is agreed upon in the LOI terms. So the LOI basically just sets forth, bullets out what we would then insert into a normalized purchase and sale agreement. As it relates to the capacity, I don't know if that was a question for me. That was the reason why we had a prior call to this, because we wanted to make sure there would be capacity. We didn't want to go down this route if we weren't able to get capacity for utilities, specifically sewer, obviously, and water. So that's kind of why we had the pre-call, just to make sure there was. And my understanding is there would be. But if there isn't, and there's a question for me, I'd kind of like a little bit more clarification on that too from the board.
There is, and Mr. Benson's right here. I was just asking him more of engineering, so he can answer that right now.
Yeah, Mr. Jensen, the CID has sufficient capacity. The RV unit is equivalent to 40% of a single family home. That's been in the rules at the CID for ever since it started, because there used to be RVs. Yeah. And it's consistent with Lee County and other jurisdictions. So that's a solid number. And so 300 times 40% is 120 ERCs. The property, I believe, at the time the CID acquired it, had about 160 ERCs. So they're sufficient, owned by the CID to handle it. You mentioned the North Hotel. The North Hotel has approximately 80, and the dormitory less than 10, maybe 5 or 6. They were going to have to acquire some from the CID if they were going to do their project that's now not going to be done. So yeah, there's plenty of capacity. We did a analysis of the actual flows at the water and wastewater plant compared to the build out of the community. We've updated that various times over the past 30 years, and we're in good shape. So we can easily handle this as well.
I'd like to ask another technical question, and it's really an easy one. If the ERCs are 40% of a condo unit, and Class A's have one.
No, I'm sorry, of a single family.
Oh, a single family.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Multifamily
with
unit
2 bathrooms.
80%.
Yeah.
And a suite or efficiency, like they have at the hotel. Or we're going to do up at this other project where they were, 700 square feet, small units. Those are 60%. And again, all those numbers, those are fairly consistent with what you'd find for utilities throughout the country that use this methodology for assessments.
Okay. All right. This RV resort is 55 and over. And are they buying the lots from you, or is it purely rental?
Purely rental. We're not in the plotting of and selling of the land.
Okay. I'm a little uneasy. I mean, I'm just taking everything out right now because, I'm with you on this. I'm uneasy with the language that says that we would be selling the land to Zeman Homes, or there are assigns, and I assume affiliates or assignees, and that makes me a little nervous. It makes me nervous because I'd rather sell to one person rather than have a developer, not necessarily you, but a developer come to us later and say, oh, gee, things have changed. We're going to sell it to this pig farmer or whatever. You know what I mean? Would you change the language to the point where we're just selling the land to Zeman Homes?
Well, unfortunately, Zeman Homes, we structure all of this. So Zeman Homes is our marketing brand and it's our sales company. And that's where it comes from. All of our properties are owned by individual LLCs, but Ed is the majority ownership of that LLC and the managing member. So I could come up with something that says, and that's what that language to us means, and we could sharpen it up in the PSA that says to an entity that's owned and managed by Ed Zeman. So what we do is when we get something under contract, we will then go form an LLC with a name, pick Port of Isle RV Resort by Zeman LLC. So that's typically how we do things. And so that's how we're structured. So we don't have entities owned by the actual Zeman Homes Incorporated.
Okay.
But I'm more than willing to work with you on something. I understand your concern on that.
Will you, this is a tough one, will you disallow any language or any use of park models in the letter and in the purchase and sale?
Yeah, we're okay with, I mean, we have properties, we have thoughts on that, but obviously I know that's becoming a strong issue with some counties, and if that's a main issue for your board, and we are more than happy to take that out and say, or carve that out that says park models would not be allowed. The only thing we ask is that the ordinance or anything attached to this doesn't get any stricter than what the state requirement is for RVs, which is 180-day usage. We've run into some counties where are trying to require us to only allow for 30-day usage. And frankly, we just wouldn't be able to make a development work if someone could only come down and stay at our property for 30 days. So the ordinance is 180-day usage. And that's what we would want to have so that someone could come and spend 6 months at our resort.
I don't think
okay on the limiting park models.
We want to welcome you with open arms, and we just want to get the elephants in the room out of the way, at least I do now, so that we can move forward in a lot better fashion if we move forward. We just have, I looked at some of your properties from the air and on Google Earth, and I noticed, and I certainly didn't look at all of them because you have a lot of them, but I looked especially at the Tides. I looked at this place up the street, the Wave, and I noticed that there are no residential communities adjacent to them. And my concern is here, there is. And that's Orchid Cove where we're sitting. So naturally, to protect the folks there, we would want certain assurances, that it's not going to have an adverse effect on real estate values. Now, my 2 cents worth, I don't believe that a high-end RV park, RV resort would have a negative impact. I am also of the understanding and belief that that park models would crush the real estate values. And that's really what I'm concerned about. So if you're telling me you're not going to do that, I'll take your word for it, and we can see it in the letter, and that'll be good. I have one last question, and then a couple other things, but I have one last question. I would, and I'm not speaking for the board, I would like very much, this came up on us really quickly, and on the folks here, and I don't want it to be, I never wanted it to be what I want. And I don't think any of the board members here want it to be what they want individually, and we try to frown on that. That's happened in the past. I don't want that. So what I want doesn't matter. I care about what the residents want very much. It's a one-shot deal. So I would like the time, and not a lot of time, for us to advertise and do a public workshop just for the residents of Port of the Islands, so that they have the opportunity to come and sit and tell us what they think about any development, about you, about anybody else, and how they feel about development. And I think we could get that done. in 30 days. So I would like to change your deadline from January 21st to the end of February to allow us to do that. Now, on your behalf, because everybody has to win a little bit, I, not speaking for the board, would be willing to make a motion that we do a moratorium on any other offers, developments, or anything being entertained until we have this meeting. Because if there are other developers, we still got to do this kind of meeting, so we might as well do it once. So we'd be happy to, I would be happy to guarantee you that we just want to hear what our neighbors think. This is a giant impact. It's going to mean 300 new things back there, vehicles, RVs, that have probably 450 to 600 cars coming in and out, scooters, other things. And here in this little district, it means that we're going to lose our privacy forever. So on the other side of that coin, we have bills and we have things coming up for repair. And so we need the money too. We could survive without it. We could raise the rates, but that's not tasteful to the residents. So your purchase would really put us in a good financial position. All I want is I'd like to hear what the residents here think. And I'd like 30 days from you to do it, and then we move on.
Yeah, this is Jeff. We're in agreement with that, and I'm going to be in Florida, so I'm more than happy if one of the workshops, if you want me to attend to answer their questions too directly. But yeah, we're agreeable to what extending the deadline.
Okay, I would love to do that. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for being reasonable. It means a lot to us to trust. I can't tell you enough. We've had 4 developers doing different things, 2 of whom are still very much in business, 2 of whom have a lot of money and are good operators, but they defaulted on us. And we just can't afford another one. It raised our taxes 40% in the last 5 years. And we need to be in a more solid position. So everything you've said, I like. Do I have to make a motion to change the date?
Why don't we see if there's other questions?
Yes.
From the board.
I have one. I'm interested, I don't know if you're at this point yet, but I'm interested in the financing. Are you asking us to hold any paper, or will it be, let's say, a cash deal on closing?
Cash on closing. We would, we typically, our deals on vacant land are cash upon closing, and then we typically get bank financing on our developments, but we don't have to get it. We just utilize bank financing for developments.
Okay, and you say something about 300 units. Is there room there for 300 units? Because I read something about there's a section there that's environmentally sensitive.
So that's part of our that's part of our due diligence too, where we would have an engineer come in and take a look and then lay over our normal lots onto that. But from the acreage, we're able typically to determine what we can build. But if we do run into that, we're not going to do any or ask for any impact. Like, we don't do any wetland impact mitigation that's over 0.5 of an acre, because then you get into the Army Corps issues. So as we go through our DD, those are the items that would come up. But and we know that when we go into a project, unless there's some major thing that we find and discover that, hey, it's shrunk now to we only can get 100 sites, we know we might lose some sites during our design and DD period.
Okay, Ron Benson has something.
Yeah, this is Ron, the district engineer. There's a couple things just as to be noted. For instance, Orchid Cove. Before Orchid Cove was developed, part of the land was zoned RT, part of it was conservation, the same thing.
Right.
And when you went for the PUD, when the developer of Orchid Cove went for the PUD from the county, then the county allowed them to use the entire property, but you had to blend the zoning, so that limited the number of units by county zoning, which was plenty to build this community.
Okay.
Something very similar would probably happen there. The conservation is a zoning. It was not a, going way back, just, as far as how many units could get built per acre on that land. A line was drawn probably arbitrarily, probably 35 years ago. And the county says, okay, you got this section here, and it's the highest density zoning in the county. And then the piece right beyond it, by the gun, up by where the gun club is. And I think they were really trying to identify that being different. But where they drew the line, is where they drew the line.
Yeah. I just want to remind everybody, there was an RV park back there when I moved here. And I never heard any complaints from the neighborhood about it. So I think it's a good idea what we're considering here.
Yeah, well, what they're talking about is considerably higher end than what you used to have.
Right, but just the fact that RV.
But one other thing about conservation, and then is there wetlands, things of that nature. That obviously that area of property has been totally cleared, filled. It's been like that for
Years.
decades.
Yeah.
And I think 30 years ago, there was one little area in there that might have been noted as being wet.
Yeah.
And the area to the north is, where the gun club is a jurisdictional wetland. But that I don't think was, because it was so small. And again, it's all been filled for decades. So the odds are they'll be able to work something out with the county, but the county's the one that makes those determinations.
It's all, that lot's all RT, I believe, but what about the area around the pond behind the hotel, where the little pond is?
That's RT also.
It is, yeah, I thought the whole thing was RT.
The north end of that property, up by the gun club, is where there was a line, and it's
obsolete.
Well, the line was drawn. I'm not sure there was ever a meets and bounds, survey to that line. It was just a line somebody drew on a county zoning map 30 years ago. And,
I see.
I think your attorney, Dan Cox, would probably say the same thing as his recollection. So.
One last,
No.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just have one last question. The shoreline along the Thacker Union Canal is extremely environmentally sensitive according to the entities that manage it. You don't need any access to that?
Is that a question? Sorry, I'm.
Are you Jeff?
Yeah, I'm Jeff. Yes.
Yeah, for you.
What was the question again? Sorry, I was having a hard time hearing it.
There's a shoreline along that property that's on the Thacker Union Canal. And it's environmentally sensitive. Do you not need any of that for access of any kind?
I don't believe we would on that. I don't believe we would.
Okay.
Well, we could exclude power boats or something, I'm sure.
Yeah,
No, it's just,
the Water Management District, though, allowed the previous developer to have access for, non-motorized vehicles and boats and things.
But yes, if we have a community open house, I would appreciate if he was.
There?
yeah, I would too.
Yeah, okay, good.
So we don't work it around his schedule.
Were you planning the same amenities that you had at the Tides?
Very similar amenities. We'd have to look at the 2-story clubhouse when you look at that from a cost perspective on this size. I don't know exactly if we'd go 2 stories again, just because you have to put an elevator and a couple other things in there, but very similar amenity core.
2 stories would be nice view.
Yeah, it would be nice. It's nice, but again, I think that comes down to, if we can get the 300 sites, if we drop off, X amount of sites, then it becomes, debating of how much you spend on that clubhouse. And going 2 stories just adds exponentially more cost, that's all.
Okay, any other questions, Michelle?
One
Jeff, I have one.
Oh, one from Mr. Benson. How many units were there prior?
It was close to 400, wasn't it?
I have no recollection of how many. I
Was it
would
that
say,
big? I thought it was
no, I
huge.
would say it was 100 or 200.
Yeah, it was small.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The old one, yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff,
Mark,
will you guys also look at incorporating the dormitory in the North Hotel properties?
Would we be looking at buying those as well?
Yeah, including them in this project?
If we're available to purchase them at the right price, yeah, we would love to have them. I believe in 2017 we were looking at all of them. So this isn't the first time we've looked at these parcels, and it was obviously a little bit different back then on ownership and what was going on. So we would be interested in it. It just would come down to pricing.
This is Bruce Nivens. I'm the realtor working with Jeff's company. We have in fact been in discussion, had discussions at various times with both the county about the hotel property that they now own. They've given me, as recently as the last week or so, an update relative to their clearing of that property and their process afterwards of selling it or not. I've also spoken at different times with the gentleman who owns the what's now the dormitory property. So yes, there has been discussion of trying to incorporate that into the overall design if, as Jeff said, the prices are right.
They'll give you the ERC. Yeah, they'll give you the ERCs.
Yes. Okay. Okay, you indicated you wanted a motion, or do you just?
Well, I'm asking you if I have to. I'd like to make a motion that we do a public workshop before the end of February, advertised for the board to be at, and I can arrange it for across the street or here, and just to see what our neighbors think. And I'd be great. I'm with it. I'm sure they are. They're working around his schedule, Jeff's schedule. If he could be here, I think that would be huge.
Okay, the only issue is you've got to set a date certain.
Right.
And
So we're going to check that with him.
yeah, Jeff, what dates in February do you have available?
I'm fairly open in February. There's just a couple dates I can't do. So I know right now the 4th, 8th, and 9th are not available. Otherwise, I can pretty much shift stuff around to make things work.
Okay. So pick your poison.
Have it after the next
I
meeting?
said, would it be better to just have it after one of our meetings?
Well, yeah, you could do that. Or if you just want it dedicated to it, what you would do.
What's our next meeting date?
The 19th.
19th.
I think it'd be better to dedicate it.
Okay,
some
so
evening or
the
something.
8th, want to look at the 12th, which is a week before?
I think we should do it in an evening when people aren't working too.
I don't think we want to do it on a Friday evening now. Did he say the 11th was bad?
No, he said the 4th, 8th, and 9th.
4th, 8th, and 9th, okay. Either the evening of the 10th or the 11th.
Yep. Yeah, either one of those.
Do those work for you, Jeff?
Yeah, I think is that Wednesday and a Thursday, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, either one works. Either one.
Meeting, and you guys can make decisions, whatever. It's just, what I would do is set this up as a continuation of this meeting, and that way you don't have to advertise.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Now, can we separately advertise it on Nextdoor to get people to come?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
You can
Yeah,
do
I
it.
think that's great.
Yeah, we're not going to do it. I don't have
No,
access
I'll
to
do it.
this. Okay. So on the, what do you want to do, the 10th or the 11th? The motion would be a date, what do you want to say, 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
5 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
6 o'clock? Okay, 6 o'clock on the date that you just said, the 10th. Yeah, that would be the best.
I'll do whatever works for you guys, because I don't care.
Okay, 6 o'clock on the 10th. The meeting will be continued. This is on the current agenda, so this will just be a extension of that item. Okay? So that would be 2:10 at 6 o'clock. John, is the clubhouse okay? It is, okay. Okay. Okay, so that's a motion by Mr. Jensen to continue this meeting for the continued discussion of the Zeman Homes proposal.
Public Works.
And presented as a public workshop.
I'll second.
Everyone's familiar with the motion?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
One other one, Cal, we just, want to change the language, get another LOI done
Right,
up.
yeah, we'll work on that.
Highlights.
Yeah, I've got it.
This is Bruce- this is
So-
Bruce Nibbins. This
Yes,
is Bruce Nibbins. I'll get with Jeff and we'll update and extend the LOI out until the 26th of February, if that works for you. That's the Friday before the end of the month. And so I'll get with Jeff and we'll get that over to you.
All right, you've heard everything, Bruce. You'll be
Yes,
able
I
to
have.
an amended LOI. If you could get it to us early enough where we could get it to our attorney for review, that would be appreciated.
I will do that.
Is he listening now?
Dan, he hasn't signed in. Dan, are you on? Dan Cox, are you on the line? I'll get with them.
Okay. It's important that that language gets changed.
Sure,
in the
yeah,
LOI.
yeah. They heard it and we got it.
Yeah, they
do it also. All right, Jeff, thank you. Appreciate it. Bruce, Ed, thank you. And if you need anything, give me a call. I'll look forward to your revised LOI and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. I'll see you on the 10th.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Moving right along. Mitch, you're up.
All right. Hello, everybody. An uneventful month in December. We had one little issue at the water plant. It was an IP address on one of the RO skids. Somehow it lost the IP address. It turned into kind of a big deal. We had to get BCI to come out and fix it. But other than that, no issues at the water plant. It's running great. The wastewater plant, as usual, is making excellent effluent. The well field, no problems. Everything's working fine. Fire station pumps, they're all working in order. The lift stations, no issues so far this season. Reuse is.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Is that Dan?
Yeah, that's Dan.
Okay. Yeah, I've been on the whole time. I don't know why y'all couldn't hear me.
Okay, good. Well, we've moved on. So you've heard everything that was discussed and we'll get with you on that. All right, Dan?
All good.
Yeah, sorry, Mitch, go ahead.
That's okay. In distribution, just the normal meter reads in December, in the normal turn-ons and turn-offs, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay. Any questions of Mitch?
Did any new meters go in?
I think 4 new meters went in December.
The
Yes.
new automated?
No, not the automated. The automated, no, not yet. No, they've been ordered, but none have been installed as of yet.
Okay. Any other questions of Mitch?
No, just one thing, remember I'm last.
You said first.
Remind me.
You talk, I got you number 1 under this.
You said first.
Robert Soto, you're up.
Thank you. Just giving an update on my stuff here. Did our bare on the shelf, actually toured the property and we looked at everything. Palm tree trimming, from the approval from the last meeting has all been completed. We did have to come back and do the boom lift, do the canary pond at the entrance of Freeze Drive. We've been running manually water on Newport Drive on the areas where we're having the irrigation repaired for the power. But I started doing it manually just to keep everything alive and just, buy us some time. We did get some nice rain here, so that's gonna buy us a little bit more time, but just waiting to see what the status is on that repair for that meter box. The secrets also were trimmed up and we did remove all the exotic vegetation on Newport Drive. The mulch has been delivered. We're scheduled to be out here with the full crew on Tuesday, so we'll have it all done and installed by Tuesday. It's at the Marina Overflow. The bush hog and the pushback, we are gonna be here next week, starting Tuesday. I will be leaving our machine, because it takes a couple of days to get that whole well fill done, so we'll be leaving equipment inside the plant, just to keep it away and safe. The fact that hatcheries around the lake that Chris had put on his report have all been taken care of. And we had 2 compliances, 186 Sunset Cave, 165 Venus Cave for the Brazilian peppers. They were on your list. They did comply. We took care of them. So just giving you guys a heads up on those units, and I also put them on the notes.
Good.
So pretty much it. Next month, we'll have a deeper report. We'll be able to get to the back all the way, maybe present some pictures and whatnot and see, show everybody what's back there. So we'll have access to get back there.
Okay. Any questions of Robert? Good. You've got a copy of the financial report, and you guys are in good shape. We're coming up to the last payment of the water bonds.
I'm gonna have a party.
Yeah. So, any questions?
Last payment is in May, correct?
Yes, May 1. And the money is available and it's set and it's waiting to be paid.
How much is that?
I want to say 550,000, 500,000, right around
Yeah.
there, yeah.
Not 550, about
500.
the financials look good.
Okay. Is that a motion to accept it?
I put a motion forward to accept the financials as presented.
I'll second it.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
You have in front of you information on E-Verify. It's a new act or new law that went into place. And basically, you guys have all done it. I know Russ and Michelle have. You had to submit an I-9 to be able to be an employee or a supervisor of the board. All contractors have to do that. They set up an E-Verify program. What we've done is just put a sample program in there, and we'd like you to make a motion to authorize Russ to sign it, and then we'll just take care of it for you. We're already sending out notifications that we'll put some language on any proposal or any contract that you guys have that they have to be registered for through the E-Verify system, and that all of their employees or anyone that they do business with is a registered citizen or
Where is
verified.
We don't do that now?
It was in the updated agenda.
Yeah.
It was just yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was just yesterday.
It was in the updated agenda.
Yeah, I believe we've done that
Yeah, we
the
have
last
to.
2 years for
Yeah.
other government agencies, so it's not a
Yeah,
problem.
with all subcontractors and all. Because then you issue 1099, right?
Yeah, and this just went into effect January 1, so.
But what actually went into effect? Because
The
I've always
actual,
done I-9.
the fact that it's now required of all governmental units that you have to do it. So it's never mandated before. It's, you're supposed to, but now it's mandated. So,
But have we as a governmental unit issued 1099s?
yes, we do.
Subcontractors?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so nobody gets paid on an invoice unless we've got a copy of their insurance and their a W-9. Okay? All right, so if we could get a motion to authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the district for the E-Verify system for the board.
I'll make a motion to allow our chair to sign.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You'll have to do it online too. I don't have anything for you to sign today, but
Electronic signature?
yeah, electronic signature. Chris will work with you on that. Okay, you've got a copy of the field manager's report. Several of the items that he identified, Robert had already taken care of. It's, your water system's good. The water's a little low for planting of the canna. So we're going to have them do it closer to the wet season. Because if you put them in, they'll just die. They need to be watered. They're water plants, so, okay? There's a moderate presence of hydrilla, which is a submerged weed, and it'll come up, it's really ugly, and people think it's algae, but it's a submerged weed. And Chris is monitoring that, working with your contractor to make sure that it's taken care of. There's a lot of trash in the bags, or in the ponds, the retention ponds. Next time Chris's crew is out there, they'll pick it up, but we'll also talk to Robert. Michelle, maybe you can mention it to Robert. His guys are here all the time. If they can just pick up trash as they're there, that would be great. Okay? The signage, the no parking signs on the median, they're starting to wear out. Chris will just replace them. Right now he's setting them up, but they're wooden stakes, and he'll replace them as needed. So, next time his technician's out here, he'll power wash the curving there, where you've got a big muck buildup. Anything? Yes, go ahead.
I have one question, we haven't had new construction in quite a while up on my block. And I noticed, you can't help it, but a lot of sand gets in the runoff where the water is. And this time of year, there's no problem. But how does that get cleaned up?
Chris, he comes out where it can be cleaned manually, he does. And where they need a jet, then Mitch's guys come out. He's got a jet that they can take care of and power wash it.
A lot of sand.
We got a big truck with it's like a vacuum cleaner that's got a tube that big, so it doesn't carry.
I worked on one of those when I was in college.
Man, the good old days.
We called it a suck truck. So.
That's what we call it too.
Yeah.
Amongst ourselves, at least.
Yeah.
Cal, I want to say something, and I missed it where I was supposed to say it. I really appreciated the orientation, and I think some people, I don't know anybody, some people say, oh, Jesus, I gotta sit. I really learned a lot from it, and I thought the speakers were really good, and I thought it moved along really well, and but I really did think it was a thorough orientation, and when I walk away from something like that, as much as I hate them, if I learned a couple of things, which I learned a lot of things, it's valuable. So I meant to tell you that before. You did a great job of it.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate it. We've done it every year. It's something I started with Severn Trent, and they dropped it after I left, but we kept it. And with COVID, we were concerned if we could still do it, and so we did it virtually and started the webinar program. So we will have it if anyone wants to see it or you missed it, but we are looking at ways to put it on our website where people can go to it. So
it was really great. Like if someone had one of us had a question for the attorney, and then you had something to add to it, boom, you could add to it right then. And that was really helpful. And that happened quite a bit. And so that interplay with the engineer, I mean, that was really good.
Good. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And you met Chris.
And we met Chris.
Yeah.
The man behind the curtain.
Anything else on the report? Anything somebody has a question or wants to bring up? He's just pointing out things. Now, Chris, you guys have had his guy out there, and I think you give him like $500 maximum. He charges it $29 an hour. And to get in and just clean and take care of those you used to have a list of about 5 pages of things that were not being taken care of. And now it's down to less than a page.
And I love the visuals too.
Yeah.
I love the visuals.
Okay. Anything else? Then we'll just move on, and he had nothing as far as follow-up items. That takes us to the engineer's report.
Listed on the agenda is Sunset K construction and the sidewalk damage there. We do have two houses under construction there, one at 170 and 174 Sunset K. And there's work progressing on both of them.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, 170 is a little bit further along as far as construction.
The owner's there almost every day.
Okay, I did stop by both those houses this morning, and 170 looks real good as far as the drainage swale in the back. 174, I need to get back in touch with them. They've got a lot of debris and some dirt. They're going to need to reestablish that swale as work progresses and gets to a point where they can do that. So I'll be in touch with them.
I saw the owner of the empty lot to the left of 174.
Yes.
And he's very concerned about if he's going to flood in the summer because of the dirt and their elevation. And I said, until it's done, we don't know.
Right, and they need to address the side yard drainage too as part of their construction.
But also 151 Windward K, there's new construction there.
Correct. I stopped by there this morning also, and it has a little bit of silt in the backyard drainage swale right now, along with a little bit of debris, but it's not too bad. It will need to be cleaned up as construction finishes up, but that's not bad either. And I also stopped by 153 Venus, and there's a house under construction there, and that drainage swale looks good also. So when I get down here, I try to drive around the neighborhood, take a look at some of the houses under construction, and just make some
Lot
notes.
going on.
Yes, it's busy. It's busy.
We're getting calls every day for new construction.
Oh, yeah.
So that's all I have at this point. There'll be some other items on the agenda that we can discuss when we get there.
Looking back at the report, Michelle, you raised a question about the silt. If you look at page 17 or page 4 of the report, you can see an example of that where a lot of silt has gotten in the, and that's something that would be cleaned up by, if Adam can do it, Chris's employee. If not, then, Mitch gets in there and does it. But your water control structures look great, and he is keeping all of the debris or the vegetation around there cut down so it doesn't impact it.
I did drop by 105, and it looked like he cleaned it out already, but I was looking at the correct end of the
okay.
So.
Good. And the other thing that I didn't mention that I should have on that is that the dry retention ponds over by the wastewater plant, those can be mowed now. And so, next time you might put that on your list, Michelle.
Sure.
Okay.
David?
Yes.
I'd like to ask for, the wish list that Ron did last April 2020, that's the most recent one, and you provided us with that most recently. If it's not, and I mean this genuinely, if it's not too much trouble, before we have this meeting with Zena, could you get the board members that same list in the order of immediacy? In other words, in your opinion as an engineer, both of you, which jobs you think need to be done now, 2 years, 4 years, the same list, but just in the order of immediacy in an engineer's opinion?
We're going to address that later on the agenda.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Starting.
I have one question. Why would you want that before the meeting?
I'd like to know where we're at as far as expense structure over the next 4 or 5 years, as far as impact.
But how would that impact the sale of this land?
Well, I just want to have it. It's not going to impact the sale.
Well, and we've talked about some ideas.
Yeah,
that
it's not the impact of sale at all.
Right.
Oh, you said.
Yeah, I'm planning to talk about that when it gets to that item.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Dan, you're up.
I think we've probably touched on everything I need to touch on. There's been no movement on PrepMac, and I'll have some discussions with them before the end of the month, and we'll probably have you a much more detailed update on where we're going at their next meeting.
Okay, one of the questions by the board at the last meeting was vehicle towing considerations, and you were going to report back, to research it, report back.
I'll make a note and try to get you a memo on that before Monday.
Okay, I'll forward it to everyone once I get the note then. Okay, any questions of Dan?
No, I have one comment though. The reason I asked Zeman about the waterfront is I did talk to the three people at the county and at South Florida that are in charge of that specific thing. And they were pretty clear about that's a no vote. And they said it could take a long time. So if they don't need it, we don't need to bring it up, okay? But it's a no vote. They don't want it. And I didn't know about them.
Give it up or?
They don't want any easement on the shoreline.
Sure.
It's environmentally, and the woman in South Florida, I have her name, said that it has to go, you have to apply for a permit from them first. They work it around, then if they approve it, and she said that would be doubtful, then it goes to the county, but ultimately, it would take the blessings of 4 of the 5 commissioners. And the guys at the county told me the same thing. They said, Everglades.
But we're not selling it.
No, we're not selling it.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying though, I mean, right.
Yeah. Okay. The North Hotel, parcel 13. First, I'll just give you the update, and I sent this out, and there's an aerial of that. I talked to Camden Smith, who is the project manager for the county on this. She's overseeing that. We had a concern over water ponding in the preserve area, and immediately Mitch and his crew went out. They looked, make sure that there was no broken water mains or anything. There wasn't. Ron rode his bicycle around Saturday and looked at it. My concern was that if there was any asbestos removal at the hotel, it's done by water pressure. And were they properly filtering that out? And so Ron didn't see anything. We were fairly comfortable. The gentleman that brought it to my attention said that he still saw it. He met with Mitch and showed him exactly where it was. Mitch identified it as an old abandoned irrigation line. And so I think we're in pretty good shape. But so I did talk to Camden also about a few things on this, and this is the update that she sent. So anyhow, they're working on it, and you can see quite a bit of it's been tore down already. All right?
I noticed you can't make a left there now.
Right.
Yeah, and that's gonna be horrible for the gun club. Is that road on the right, it owns every pothole.
Yeah.
There is no public access to the left. That's never been a public access. It's always only been the one way around was public. So
Which was to the left, wasn't it?
No,
To the right.
Oh, to the
no,
right,
only
yeah.
to the right.
Why did they fix the road on the left?
That Holacek did that. And because he owned the property and he owned the gun club, it just became an extremely long driveway.
When the RV park, 30 years ago was there, before Mr. Halachek bought the property and then closed it, that was where you would go to the left to go to that. But one person owned all the land north all the way, including the gun club. So, it was just private driveway. And so you went through the parking lot, and then they had a private driveway. And then once they subdivided, sold different parts, they never put any easements or anything because there was a public road the other way, so they had, access to their
So who
land.
maintains that road on the right?
Probably the gun club.
We do, yeah.
On the left, you mean?
Yeah,
Right.
the left.
On the
On
right.
the right.
Oh, no, the right is ours.
Right is the
Yeah,
CID's Union
So we
Road.
own all those potholes.
Yes, you own all those
Yes,
properties.
you do.
And,
I want to talk about that when I get to the
Okay,
CID
good.
item.
Okay, you had so that's an update on North Hotel as far as parcel 13. You heard the Zeman proposal. And then we had a couple discussions with Scott Crepan, and he's also brought this up. And asked if he could present something to the board. I said, yes, get us something in writing, and never got it. I did call him yesterday, and Scott asked to be present. I don't know if he's here.
He's here now.
Okay, and Scott is here, and he wanted to address the board. You know, being a property owner, I think it's important that, you know, you listen to him.
Absolutely.
Okay, Scott?
Thank you. As Cal mentioned, my name is Scott Cohan. I invested into Port of the Islands about 5 years ago. We purchased approximately half of the marina lots over at Port of the Islands. The other half are individually owned, or some people own multiple lots. There's 175 docks over there. And so we've been involved in redeveloping that project. And as we have, come a long way in the last 5 years, we have additionally invested in the 2 acres of commercial property up front. And our plans are, we're playing around with different site development plans as to what to do with that. So we're invested in the community. We've been here 5 years, and I personally love it. I just love being out in the nature and fishing and everything else. And as we have spent more and more time here, my background for the last 30 years has been in real estate development. We've developed single-family subdivisions, condominiums, lakefront projects. I'm from Ohio. We've developed up in Lake Erie and multiple different projects, et cetera. So we've done a little bit of everything. And so, as I've been down here for the last 5 years, it's just natural for us to want to look at other opportunities and upgrading, conceptually do the same thing that we did with the marina. So we've taken an interest and have had lots of discussions with the folks who own the resort over there. I think it's been underutilized and maybe not managed as well as it could be, and has been very challenged for a lot of years. And we don't want to see that. We just assume that we can come to some kind of conclusions and the right dollars and cents. We'd like to take a shot at acquiring that and redeveloping it and making it something better and different than what it is today. Obviously, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money to do that, but we're vested. We love it down here, and we think that as a showcase property right off of 41, it kind of sets the image and the tenor for Port of the Island. So we just want to see it at a high level. So we're having discussions. We actually have an offer on the table, and we'll see where that goes. But we're doing everything that we can to acquire in a reasonable fashion that gives us some chance for success over there. So if we are successful with that, I can't help but take a look at, we have for a couple of years, just kind of poking around with the 50 acres of lot 13 back over here. It's a really interesting piece of property, great piece of property. We've had several meetings with Ron Benson and Hol Montez, talking about the project. They had done some previous architectural renderings for some of the previous developers, and so they were kind enough to share that with us so we could, conceptualize some ideas about possibly developing that. We even put together some colored site plans, just conceptual for planning. So we've been poking around with it for quite some time now. And, we haven't presented a formal offer or a formal letter of intent. We're just kind of going slow and steady. Our business model has accelerated a little bit more because we've recently found out there's somebody else at the table taking a look at potentially developing it. So, we'd like to be a part of that project. We'd like to have the opportunity to potentially submit a letter of intent. Highest and best use. We think, a high-end RV park, we agree with a lot of what was said earlier. I think that's an ideal use for that. We bring a lot of talent, financial strength, and expertise to the table to potentially do that. But we're not as far advanced to have an LOI to present to the board. We just like to at least have the opportunity to do that. I've met most of the people on the board and the engineering staff, and so I wanted to come today and also, introduce myself and network a little bit more because I don't get over on this side all that often. We know most of the people on the other side of the street, but we're all part of the CID, and I just wanted to convey to you how much time and effort we're putting into making Port of the Islands as a whole a much better place to live. just taking it from here up to here. We've had a lot of success in 5 years. It's not been easy at all for the marina. For those of you who've been around here a long time, if you haven't been over there, like, come over and stop by. Our dock master, John Owens, lives there. He's lived there for 5 years. Has been with us for 3 years. He's done an excellent job over there. And we just want to keep it going. And I think, these actions that we've had over the last 5 years, it's part of teamwork and working together with all the different people in the county. I had an opportunity to meet twice with Commissioner Castro. He's taken a very active interest in our area, very proactive. I met with him again yesterday. They fixed a lot of the potholes over on the county property that they own, and they're planning on repaving that whole area. So they're starting to spend some dollars down here. We have his attention. And so I think that, he has a very kind ear for any ideas or thoughts that we have as a whole collectively about how the county can help and be a part of making this a better place to live. So, my ask was, we'd like to have the opportunity to at least submit an LOI within 30 days or so to the board, just to take a look at maybe an alternative. The people sounded, just fine. Who were on the phone earlier, we'd like to, maybe become a part of the community on this side of the table. And I also want to, I've got website projects, a lot of history that people can do due diligence on us. I know that's an important part of choosing a partner and make sure they have financial strength, development expertise, but also that they're part of the community here as well. After having spent 5 years here, I love it down here, I really do, and I hope to get a home here and be 6 months down here and 6 months up north. That'll take some time. But the more we have on our plate to work on down here, the quicker I can get down here all the time. It was no more than that. If anyone had any questions about me or history or background, what's going on across the street, I just want to make myself available on a first-hand basis while I'm down here to be able to engage in any kind of communication during the meeting or after the meeting.
Okay. Thanks.
Any questions of Scott?
Scott, a couple of things. Scott is a neighbor, and we need to look at Scott as a neighbor, and there's nothing wrong with being a businessman. No different than Joyce Brownlee or anybody else who has a business here. He's our neighbor, and he's got a lot invested in this place. Having said that, if you have an interest in Lot 13, I think it would be prudent that you give us an LOI, and I think that if you do, that we should include him also in our thing on the 10th or the 11th, whatever it is, the public workshop. I really do. And I think he should have the opportunity to speak as well. It's all of a sudden it's a fast track. It's amazing. The damn hotel comes down and bam! So I would strongly urge you to do that, let's see what happens. Let's all be friends.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great. I have a question. You brought it up about deep pockets and stuff.
Yeah.
So who would be investing in this? Is this multiple people? Is this just
So
one unit?
I have multiple different projects, and
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you where the money's coming from.
We have our own money. Okay, I could do this with partners. I could do it myself. We're strong enough that we could do this ourselves. Yeah, we have plenty of finance capabilities. We have plenty of financial resources to do this project. I'd be happy to share that with you, not in a group format, but
sure.
Obviously as part of doing your due diligence, so you're not wasting time talking to somebody that doesn't have the capacity to develop that property.
Okay.
But you're also interested in the hotel across the
I
highway.
am interested in the hotel. Now I have partners that are interested in being part of that project, hotel experts.
And are you involved with the extension of the docks?
Yes. That's us. That's us.
Okay, but there's 3 units over there. There's 3 properties over there, and according to what I looked at, realtor.com, it's still available for sale for $2.6 million for 94 units, up to 10 stories high.
So the people who own the hotel also own 3 development parcels. It's the same group. It's the Sunstream group. So they're the same owners.
But those are for sale.
Right.
They've been trying to sell that for years.
Right.
Years. So they have the 3 development parcels for sale and the hotel. Yes.
Okay,
They own all of
they're
it.
separate.
Yeah.
They're separate parcels.
Right.
They own it all.
It's Sun Street.
I understand that, but the parcels are separate from the hotel.
Yes.
Yes,
they are.
For the second.
Yeah, we're not interested in the development parcels, just the hotel resort. The 3 parcels are raw land.
Your engineer has a question.
I have
Or
a
statement.
comment. It's a couple times people today have said that property that's the development parcels are for sale. We've also had questions about ERCs available. The development parcel, if they were to develop at the density that's already been approved by Collier County years ago, they need more ERCs to build all 3 of those proposed buildings. They have ERCs beyond what they need for the hotel as it's configured because they were trying to accumulate them towards building those buildings. So that is, just to answer your question from earlier or comment, they need some of your ERCs, but the amount that they need and the amount that you have less developing the RV park, you have plenty. So we've already looked at all the potential, all the properties that have potential for future development and how many ERCs they would require, as well as how many ERCs the CID has available, and all the numbers work. So that's, the ERCs does not have to be a question on availability. The numbers were set up and have been held for 30 plus years, and it all works. So that's, that's a good thing. Yeah. And your facilities are already built. Your water plant, wastewater plant have all the capacity. So you're in good shape.
To be clear, Scott, and I don't know Scott, I met him once before he became a board member. His partner is a very successful hotelier. He didn't get that out to you. His partner owns 5 or 6 resorts and big ones. And he was more the one looking to do the hotel. The rumor that we all heard was the hotel was very, very close to a deal. And it was. It was these guys. And Sunstream got a little stupid at the end. And fortunately for them, COVID hit a week later. So they walked away. But I just want you to understand, to be fair to everyone, there's more than one person involved.
Okay. All right. Any action, or are you ready to move on?
No.
Okay, the dormitory cleanup, we have turned that over to code enforcement, but I contacted Paul, and who is the realtor dealing with that detail, and basically they're not interested in developing it, and they have the property for sale. I reminded him that he still has to maintain it, that he can't just let it go like it is now. So we've turned that over to code enforcement.
Doesn't he own it?
Paul? No, he's just a representative of the investors.
I see they put a sign up.
Yeah. Okay, the invasive vegetation, we've turned another property over to code enforcement. We had 2 last month. Several of them have complied, but we're staying on top of that. The meter changeout program, the contract has been executed. It's been sent. Mitch has ordered the 50.
Yes, so the 50, they'll be coming shortly, and then the big order was put in. They'll deliver half of those in March and half of them the first week of April.
Don't forget Terry.
So Terry is number 1 on the list.
That bright yellow one?
Yep.
But everything's on a go and processing right now. Let's see, that takes us to the electrical panel and concrete pedestal repair. We're still waiting on LCEC to, come out, but we need a permit, and the county's just dragging their feet on this. So, like almost everything.
Do we know why?
No, they just don't have time to get to it.
Yeah, they've been very busy, all the construction and everything.
Okay. You have Mitch has a meeting with DEP, and so Mitch, if you walk out, you know, that's.
Yes, I just wanted to say if anybody had any questions for me, I didn't want to leave before you were done with me. So if it's okay, I'd like to leave to meet with the evening. Perfect. Thank you.
Good luck.
The board had asked about the replacement of that embellishment for the sign out front, and probably about 6-8 months ago, there was a replacement proposal, which is $7,000 or $8,000, and the board said, no, we really don't have the money at that time. So we got a proposal to repair it, and it will look like, you know, it's a good solid. They're going to remove both brackets from the entrance pillars. They're going to take it back to the shop and they'll fix it all up.
How much?
$1,177.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so would need a motion to authorize the repair
I'll make the
and
motion.
replacement. Okay.
I'll second.
I'd like to ask you a question, and that reminds me of it, and it's kind of an important question, and I don't know the answer. The air conditioning units, Mitch took us through the plant.
Mm-hmm.
And I specifically asked him where the control room is. And we walked in and you could hang meat in there, and I said, wow, I saw those big things, whatever they are in there. And he says, it got wicked hot. Here's my question. I went back through the minutes, and it seems that from proposal to finish took over 4 months. And it was like a $10,000 expenditure. Is there any way legally that we can create a slush fund for you where rather than let something like that go that could cause more damage over 4 months, that if it comes up and we have somebody look at it, we put it to bid, we can do all that in a week or two, we get bids that we just maybe couldn't give you the discretion to pull the trigger on these projects and give you you're the manager. Look, I'm all for putting it on you, and if you screw up, it's on you.
Sure.
But if you do it right, it's on you.
Yes.
I just don't understand that. It went 4 months, and I think it could have been done in a month, you know?
Yeah, but it wasn't because of the delay on bringing it to the board. The board approved it right when they began.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not saying
the delay was the contractor being able to get it to Mitch right away.
But, you know, I kept coming up and I was saying, geez, if you could pull the trigger on it, it would look a lot better.
I don't know about a $10,000 expenditure, but anything that is health and safety, and it's a maintenance, it's not something new. It might be a replacement, but I feel under Chapter 190, I've got that authority, and I do take care of it.
Okay, good.
So, but that wasn't a delay in the legislative review process. That was a problem with the vendor being able to get the equipment.
They still can't get parts.
Yeah.
They still can't get replacement parts even for air conditioning, so hopefully this will change. But I talked to a guy the other day, there's no parts. I can't even get a fan put in my house.
Now,
It's industry-wide, it's industry-wide.
the signage, I would have just approved it if
That's
it
another
hadn't
one.
already gone as far along as it had.
That's another one.
And once we got this proposal, you know, I knew we were meeting soon, so anything I could bring to the board, I'd rather do that. But if it's an issue of timing and it's health and safety and, you know, it's maintenance of your assets, then I go ahead and approve it.
Okay.
Okay? So you have a motion on the floor to approve this repair, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes us to the CIP discussions. You've got 4 more items. I don't know if you want to go ahead and take care of those now, or if you want to jump on the board vacancy interviews, whatever you want to do.
I think, let's get these out of the way.
Okay. You've got the CIP discussion, and what you have is the original plan that Ron drew, and then it was updated last year, and that's also in there. And Ron and David are both prepared to discuss this.
Yeah, I'll lead off on that since I have the history and I was the author of those documents. And then I'll turn it over to David to finish up. Just comment, both myself and David have over 40 years experience as civil and environmental engineers working with clients like Port of the Islands and Collier County, Lee County, doing the things we do. And doing CIPs for utilities and other entities is something we both have a lot of experience. Personally, I've been involved with Port of the Islands, doing work down here with Old Montez as your engineer since September of 1990. So I have a lot of kind of background. So over the years, I did a number of CIPs, and at different points, depending on the board's interest and the funding that you had available, depended on how much effort we put into it. Sometimes they say, just don't do that. I mean, used to be we did it every year. It was a regular function. And we'd update it, and the CIP had projects, and it said which year you were going to do it, about how much budget you ought to have, and we had it out usually 5 years, and then we had items beyond 5 years. And so if you go back, let's say 25 years ago, we would have had like 5 years, and then we had somewhere undetermined, but in the future we had projects. One of them was the water plant. And I think, when we first put that on the CIP, we probably put $1.5 million for the water plant and said, we don't know when we're going to do it. In the future, you didn't really have a very good water plant, and it ended up the state of Florida told you had to get rid of it. And so it moved up, kept putting it off, and then we had to move it back. So that's the way these things sometimes work. But the one thing that we tried to always do, even if there wasn't a lot of desire at the time to spend the money because it wasn't available, we always tried to give you this, okay, wait a minute, in the future you're going to have something, so you would know about it. And as the water plant kept going and going and going, and probably we didn't do it for 15 years maybe after we first put it on the list. But we put it on the list as something eventually you need to do.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Because I'm really I should know the answer to this, I don't. And before I was on the board, I meant to ask her, but I didn't. The best person I've ever seen do schedules, line items, for obsolescence items like painting buildings and stuff is right there, Audrey. Okay? Everything's done on a schedule, the money's there, and it's like clockwork, and it's budgeted, and she puts it out to bid, and she grinds the living hell out of it.
Right.
We don't always agree, but she's very good at that. So, are there, over the last 5 years or the last 8 years, is all this stuff scheduled so that there's money in there to fix these things?
I think I could throw something in here. We got hit with the debt.
Yeah. Right.
And the debt is like $500,000 a year. Plus, we had 3 areas that are deadbeats, weren't paying their annual assessment, which hurt our regular income. So let's say we weren't collecting, this is off my head, we weren't collecting 150 to 200,000. So the community was raised on the ERCs. Let's say we were raised to 500 to help pay the debt, but meanwhile we were getting further in debt. It wasn't anyone's fault. No one could foresee these deadbeats were going to remain deadbeats. And that's one of the reasons why we ended up buying that parcel of land.
That's right.
To capture some of our money.
That's right.
I think when we sell this land, it's going to make us whole. And I may as well say it now, when we sell this land, I'd like to give back to the community that increase in ERCs for that debt. I think then, we need to, a portion of it, but then we can start scheduling. But right now, Audrey was scheduling, but she was pretty secure about her income. We haven't been.
Yeah.
But there was an assessment, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I'm not arguing.
wasn't there this time, wasn't there a loan taken out for $5 million to build a water plant?
Yes.
And you
And a few- and a
affectionately
few
call it
little
assessment?
projects.
Huh?
And a few projects.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you call them capital improvement projects, which they are.
And they were things that had been on a list.
Right.
Very
Right.
detailed schedule
Oh, no, no,
by
I'm with
year for many years.
I'm with you.
And my
So-
point wasn't to make an excuse for
No,
myself.
no.
It was to say the board, who it's their direction,
Yep,
told the manager and the engineer, don't waste your time on, this detailed CIP because we're not going to spend the money. And I'll just stop there.
it's not on you. I'm not at all saying that. What I am saying is we borrowed $5 million to build a water plant.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming you. This got nothing to do with you. We were told by Severn Trent, you want a nice new water plant? $5 million, we're gonna give you the water plant. We did. So that covered the water plant. If the district was solvent at that time, then we should have remained solvent moving forward because the water plant's a separate issue. Okay, it was covered. Now, where my question to you is this, and everybody in this room needs to hear this. The deadbeats didn't pay. The deadbeats were the developers. And she's right. Not one of them ever paid a CID fee. And there are really 4, but 3 that affected them. Not one of those developers ever paid 1 CID fee. Never. That's what did it. Remember that.
Okay, well, yeah, let me get back to
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and the reason I was giving you this little bit of background is we have a lot of information because, again, I personally have been coming here for 30 years. So we have a lot of information, and every so often I would interject and make sure we didn't forget that there were some things out there.
Right.
Even when we got to the point where we stopped having the detailed year-by-year, project-by-project list. But Cal can probably look it up and tell you how many millions of dollars of projects you did the 5 years before the water plant that you paid as you went.
Right.
Because in those years, you did have the money. And so that was the list that we had developed as your engineer. Cal had incorporated into your budgetary planning. And that's how we were going. Okay, so
Right.
once you had, and I'll throw out another project, sort of like the water plant. It was kind of out there. Well, back 10 or 15 years ago, we repaved the streets on the Newport side, and we repaved half the streets on the Sunset or Case Phase 2 side. And we were going to then do the front part of that side, Case side, and we ran out of money. Things started looking different. Well, the next project was paving Union Road from the highway back to the hotel, or just past Orchid Cove. Now, there was a few complications because we, as a CID, tried to work with the developer of Orchid Cove to try to work together, and he didn't want to. And I don't have to go into that. Okay, then.
You didn't want to.
Okay.
That's true, I agree.
Okay, and so, but we tried.
I agree.
Okay, but we had a plan, and it was a project. It said pave Union Road. Okay, then we had a project that said where the gravel road, where all the potholes, beyond the potholes, where now it's dirt and gravel, we were going to pave Union Road back to the water and wastewater plant one day. Well, that wasn't a very high priority because the only people that drove on that road was your utility operator and the gun club people. And in those years, they weren't very active. And the property in between wasn't doing anything, it's parcel 13. So you put it off. So we, again, had some things year by year and other things that said out in the future.
Sure.
Well, one of the other ones that we have had as out in the future for a long time was the oldest pipes in your water system. Now, You can look and you can say, well, how long does a buried pipe last? And you can say, oh gosh, there's cities that are, have pipes 100 years old. There's other places that when they get 50, they start worrying about it. Well, there's also different technologies of how pipe was made. The pipe that's left that we have targeted for a long time, as someday you're going to need to deal with, was made out of asbestos cement. It's safe. I mean, it's not like you have to worry when you say asbestos. It's not like you have to worry about health or anything. That's what the name of the pipe is. Well, when it gets old, which is now probably getting close to 50 years, it gets brittle.
That's this line right here.
That's the line here is the last one on the potable water
Down
system.
to the hotel.
And then up the well field line is the same thing. So again, we've had that on there as way out whenever you had the money, and hopefully it doesn't break before you get to that point. And then every so often, I update it and I say, well, I told you it was so many 100,000, okay, add 25% because we didn't do it. And prices keep going up, every year. And so that's where that one is. And again, you have my report, and the reason my report was in 3 parts was after 5 years of being told, don't worry about it, I finally said, I got to tell you about it. It's been a long enough time. So I wrote a memo. Absolutely. And I said, here's that project, and here's something you got to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, then I was asked, a couple of years later, do you want to update anything? I then sent you another memo, which was the update to the 2015, I think it was 2017.
Yeah.
And then this last year, knowing that you had this bond or indebtedness that you had that was going to be paid off, the obvious question is, do we have anything we got to do that's going to cost money for projects before we start giving, a rebate? And that's your decision, not mine. And I'm just providing you the facts of here's what's on the table.
In essence, we have $4.2 million worth of things that need to get done.
Well, that's the beginning of the list.
You could take 200 off.
That's
the meters.
Right.
That's the beginning of the list. But you spent money on some of those. So you
Right.
can take some off, and there were some things that we had not put back on.
So that's stuff that's
and so the road is one of them.
Yep.
So the paving of the roads, when I talked to the board, the impression I got was we're not even going to talk about paving roads. Let's talk about these other things first.
Makes sense.
Okay, so at some point, you as the board should be directing your engineer and your manager to give you a list of everything. And as your question earlier today to me was a priority list. Yeah. And so we, along with Mitch and his people, we know, like you made the comment about Audrey and her stuff. Well, we know how many pumps and how many of everything you have.
Right.
And we know when we go look up the schedules, how old they are, and we know about how long they're going to last. And we can come up with a very complete schedule. And I think when you add up the whole thing, you'd be shocked at how much actual, and it's kind of a good thing that you own so much. I mean, you own a utility that has a lot of value, but when you have a certain percent of that value, you need to do what we as engineers call renewal and replacement.
I'm with you 100%.
It's not a capital improvement. It's not building something new that you didn't have. It's renewing and replacing it because you operate 7 days a week. 365 days a year, 24 hours a day.
Where are you going?
Okay, so the equipment only can last so long, and then you have to either fix it, and after you fix it a few times, then you're going to buy a new one. Okay,
that's why I asked for it. You're exactly right.
So where we are at is we have a list that we updated earlier this year, or in 2020.
Yeah, April.
That had the main categories that were within the realm of what we were told to talk about. Okay, there's some like additional items, roads, drainage. There's other things that go on that list to be complete. We need to be directed to do that. We need to be directed to prioritize it. We need to be then able to work with your manager to make a schedule by year of what these 8 projects in 2022 and these 6 in 2023 and these 8 in 2024, and have budgets for each of them and have a whole schedule. We'll be happy to do it.
I'd like to make a motion
But
to do that.
it will cost a little bit of money, but you don't get that product unless you.
How much is a little bit, buddy? My buddy.
Yes.
My buddy, Ron.
What were you thinking, David? $25,000?
Yeah. And before I prepared a handout, I'll pass it around, a little bit of outline about the capital improvement plan itself and the importance of it, what it should consist of, and so forth. And sorry, I'm just getting it to you today. But it's a dynamic. It's dynamic. Annually, you should take a look at it, review it.
Once we do the
changes and adjustments.
Once we do the catch up, because it's been put off for so many years, then it's just part of the ongoing work we do every year as your engineers to update it. But we got to catch it up.
I'm petrified of not catching it up. I'm petrified of not having this list. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm petrified of not having this list in priority, okay? We don't have to move. We need to see it. We need to see 5 years expenditures. We need to. This running.
But we used to do that.
I know you did, but this running at the seat of your pants is just not how you run a district. And I don't mean you, not you. I agree with every damn word you just said.
And there's maybe some years that you don't spend the money that's coming in, but you need to be setting that money aside for those projects in 5-10 years that you're going to need more money, that you hopefully don't have to go out and secure big bonds and that type of thing.
If this was a business, our board would want to know. And the reason I went to him is because he's doing a really good job on it. He is doing a good job. But I really would like to see that prioritized so we know where we're at 5 years down the road, starting now. Now is the time to see where we're at. Now is the time.
So do we need to make a motion to do that?
Well, I would think at some point you need to make a motion to direct us to do the work, and we'll take the work that we've done on a shoestring to just keep where we're making sure you are aware, and we'll update that.
We can make a motion. Hang on, I got one question and I want to look short answer.
Okay.
At one point in time, we said if we never developed parcel 13, we were talking about moving the well field out here closer. But my question is, why is that another one 2 miles out? Why do we have to go that far? There's got to be a reason we're out there if we could have put it here. So we couldn't combine these 2 projects and have the well field move closer so that the pipeline wasn't so long.
Yeah, I'll try to make it short.
Okay.
Okay. The hydrogeology of this area is as you get closer to the Gulf, you have more salt water. The fresh water that we have out here is a very thin layer, less than 20 feet, probably 15 feet. And so as you go farther away, you have more water. Now the fresh water for our well field is basically the fact that all the land for, 1 million acres or, some huge amount upstream all around us gets rain, and that fresh water floats on top of the swamp, okay? And replenishes the ground like the top 10 or 15 feet. As you come toward the Gulf, or if you go toward the Vaca Union Canal, it gets saltier. We did for you years ago hydrogeological study where we drilled test wells, and we drilled them from where you are now back towards the canal. And basically we couldn't go closer to the canal. The reason the canal is significant is when they put in that canal 50 years ago, they blasted a lot of rock and they fractured all this aquifer of lime rock. And so the salt water had a path underneath back.
Okay, so we couldn't have a well.
So we could not have, well, no, that's not, we couldn't have a conventional well field.
Right.
You'd have to desalinate or something.
No. So but let me add one more thing. We put in the third well about, I don't know, 15 plus years ago, and it's closer. It produces water that has more salt than the other two. And it's not but less than 1,000 feet further in. So if we use conventional tech, so that's why we looked at it, was where could we put wells? And we were, again, this was probably 15 years ago, and we're looking for this community being here forever. So, time isn't really the issue. We're looking forever, predicting. So we did a couple things. One is we made sure that when we did the water plant, if you had saltwater intrusion, that your water plant would take that salt out. And it didn't cost really any extra money because of the way we planned your facility. So you're okay. So I don't want anybody to get scared by anything I might say and not be complete in my explanation. Okay, now your question about my comments about parcel 13, there's another type of well that you can use for shallow water. And instead of drilling the well into the ground vertically, you lay the well horizontally and even shallower. And so it basically is just taking that top 5 or 10 feet of water and pulling it to that long horizontal well. So you'd put in a pipe, let's say parallel to the canal, back from the bank so far, which would allow you to take any of the rainwater that percolates into that entire field out there, that 50 acres, plus you're going to get some of the water from the canal pulled to it. And if you do that right, and I had a hydrogeologist that's worked out here for us for 20 some years, who's knowledgeable of this area plus that type of wells, and he and I went through some preliminary stuff on the back of an envelope and a little bit more than that. So we could tell you if you ended up not having a use for that property, there could be a potential CID use, which could be offset by not having to spend as much money on this parallel new pipeline. So if you were just going to get rid of the old well field, then you just say, I don't build that new pipeline. And then you use it until the pipe breaks as a backup. And you build a new one. Now, the only way that made sense is if you were stuck with that property that was not going to be able to be developed for tax base.
Right. Okay, but that's what I'm saying. You can't do it for both.
You could do
You
can't do both. Now, so that's why we mentioned it. So if it ever, you had to make these decisions, you had at least been told about it instead of saying, well, Ron, why didn't you tell me that 10 years ago or 5 years ago?
Okay.
So that's the only reason I brought it up at the time, was to have it in the back of people's mind. And yes, there was some offsetting things if you got stuck with it. Okay, back to the, I'll try to wrap this up. Back to the CIP. Yes, we would need to go in and do a little more thorough job, add more projects so you'd have more smaller projects. And by smaller, let's say $25,000 to $50,000 projects. They add up, and you have 20 or 30 of them.
Pretty sure they'll do.
So we started out the big ones, the ones we didn't want anybody to forget. That's what you have today, and it's left over. We have to add in those roads. I'm going to bring up the roads one last time because it is important when you talk to this prospective buyer, any prospective buyer, because there's an issue there. You had a budget to pave Union Road, okay? And Union Road is your road. It's a public road. You own the ground that that road is on. And if someone buys the property from you, they are likely going to want that road to be in a slightly different location to serve both you and them. Now they would have to, anything they would do to that road to move it is that, in agreement with the CID, and it has to be so everybody that has public access continues. But that's money. Money you were going to spend back in a CIP 10 or 15 years ago had that in there. But if you're going to talk to someone about their development,
Let them do it.
Let them do it, or at least do part of it. Now so we need to make sure that's an open discussion as you go to conclusion. That's the reason I'm bringing it up. And so if there's money in the past that was on there, let's say $100,000, just throw a number out. Well, do you still have to spend $100,000, or do you spend more, or do they agree to do it? You have to agree with them. Where's the best place for that road? Because it should move. Because if you look at it on a map, it splits part of that property off. And I won't go into any of the other history on that road and things that happened in the past. But that is an issue, and it is a money issue that you need to consider.
In the meantime, and while this takes 2 seconds, I'm a member of the gun club. I think it's been really unfair to the people back there, especially now that the access road is like terrible. And I'd like to put that into the budget. I'd like to have it scheduled, to have it graded, not paved. Leave it the way it is, but have it graded, starting like right away. If you drive back there, it's deplorable. I went back there the other day. I was behind a brand new Rolls Royce, and the guy's like swearing. If you go up there on any given Sunday to the shotgun range, there are Maseratis there are Ferraris back there. There are big hitters coming to our gun range, big hitters, and they love that stuff. Okay, the pistol range too. They're nice people. You're getting rolled. I'd like to make a motion to get that road regularly graded and paved with dirt, gravel, whatever you want to call it, until such time that a developer buys it. We'll address it then. But if they have a competitor coming in down the road, 30 minutes down the road, with deep pockets. It's called Deep 50. Direct competitor to them on 29. That's not fair to them. Okay, they just spent, between you and I, 18 grand having the other thing graded and gravel. That's insane. So it's on us. And I think it's time to not tell them, oh, when a developer buys it, it's on us. Now it's time for us to put them on a schedule and have that graded on a regular basis.
Well, let me add a couple comments there. Not telling you what to do, but telling you what you need to think about, because it is your decision. You need to decide how far you do this work. So when Cal hires someone to do it, a contractor, and we help them, that they get told how far they're supposed to grade. Are they supposed to grade all the way back to their gate?
Yep.
And things like that. And that's board, direction, obviously. Yep. And my understanding, my recollection is that you do have an easement on that area where the road does go. Okay, there's then a further discussion item that I think you as a board need to think about, and that is, and this is all historic. Historically, all they've been paying is for potable water. They don't have sewer. They have a septic tank. They're like beyond, used to be considered kind of, they're part of this community, but they're like beyond where they were getting service. So all they pay is a very small amount. I don't know if they pay much of any general fund.
They pay both.
But they don't pay very many units of general fund. The amount of units that they pay for utilities is very small number of units, because they don't have any residents out there. They have a couple bathrooms and maybe a small kitchen sink.
Two
But-
ERCs.
Huh?
Two ERCs.
Two ERCs. Okay, which we were involved in saying was that reasonable? For what they have utility-wise, it is. But now if you are gonna go out there and always grade the road up to their gate and eventually maybe even pave it, now they would have to pay some amount of general fund units so that they're kicking in their fair share. And that's something you need to consider before, and it's a decision of, I think, of the board.
Oh, absolutely.
You would have advice by your manager, your attorney, and your engineer of what's fair, because there has to be fairness in, the state law governing CIDs.
When we sold them the ERCs, they became our neighbors. We were aware of it then.
Right, but that's just something that you have to work out.
Yeah.
They do pay 2 ERCs for
Right.
general fund
Yeah,
also.
but if they were to have, a big stretch of road serving them, that's, if you compared it to a single family and how many feet of road they get,
But shortly,
things like that.
the road that they just graded is gonna be gone, okay? These developers are gonna own that.
Right.
So then they're screwed. All I'm trying to do is the right thing.
Yeah, and I'm just making sure that as you bring up items, I make sure I finish explaining what I know about it so you have all the
Yeah, I
information.
understand.
Okay, so yeah, if you do David and his folks are gonna, take and get you a, updated real, capital improvement plan with 5-year, plan schedule. They would present that to you, and then you may say, oh, well, I think this one's more high priority than that one. And it's your plan, so you would end up, moving some things around, and then you have a plan to work from. And then you would also probably have money coming in from selling the land that you could put towards some of those projects. And then you have to come up with how much a year are you going to take out of your assessments that you collect from the community to go towards paying for that plan, and then that's the whole process. So this is like the first step.
I got you.
Okay.
I'd like to put the road grading out to
Okay,
bid.
there's been a mention of 2 motions. One was to regrade the Union Road from the end of the pavement to the gate of the gun club. And the other one was to authorize the engineers to prepare to update the CIP to be current. You should probably put a not to exceed figure on there also.
Separated.
Yeah, that's the way we traditionally have done our work on these kind of projects for you is something like this. You have our rate schedule per our contract, and since there's some new board members, I'll just throw it out so you are aware. The rates that you pay Whole Montez is the same rates that Collier County came up with each year or two. And then if an engineer gets selected by qualifications to work for Collier County says this is what you can charge. So they set that by doing research. And so what we've always, and we have a contract with the county and have for, ever, under those kind of terms, and you get the same negotiated rates Collier County gets.
We like to use our pool at Orchid Cove, give us a discount. So I'd like to make a motion that we put the road out to bid so that we can at least take a look at it.
I got one, just before we do that, I just have one question, because Mitch couldn't fix that washout that was on the way to the well field out there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do we have any of the materials or equipment to do part of that grading, or do we not?
No, you do not. Yeah, you had one piece of equipment years ago and you ended up sold it for surplus.
As far as fill material, I think he just got what he could.
Is that right? They just dumped it there and how they pushed it?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
I saw what they did.
Yeah, we probably need to get a motor grader out there to grade it.
Okay, all right.
We just put it out to bid.
Okay, so you would like for the next meeting proposals for regrading that road.
Yeah, not multiple times, but once, because I don't think it's gonna need regrading until rainy season.
Right.
Yeah, and it's probably
Well, that's what
not,
I mean, over a year.
Yeah.
from what we've done before, and I know what Cal's done, who's been involved, is you may want to ask him to get a couple quotes and go with whoever's, gives them the best deal, because it's probably not big enough to quote bid it, but you're bidding it in a way competitively that is allowed.
Okay, absolutely.
All right, so you made the motion?
Well, yeah, but we could put a limit on a guesstimate so that they do it right away, because I agree with them that, it's bad for those cars going through there. I mean,
Well, let's have it for the next meeting,
for the
let's take it,
bills
we'll do it.
for our
Okay,
transmission.
yeah, you don't need a motion then.
Okay.
Just, the board is requesting that we get quotes for regrading.
But I do want to see some bids.
Sure.
I really do.
Well,
That's
he's
not a
going to
challenge.
ask a couple, 2-3 companies.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in bidding.
Yeah, what we will probably have is, David to put together
Yeah.
a little package.
Do you think we could
But
have
are
that
you-
at the February 10th meeting?
No, the regular.
No.
The regular
Okay,
meeting,
regular
regular
meeting,
meeting,
okay.
yeah.
Ray, when you say bid, are you talking about putting an advertisement in a newspaper,
No.
or are you talking about
However,
he can
I
call
don't
2
know.
or 3
We
guys?
would
And,
like about 3
Yeah.
prices.
But we need to
I mean,
give
there's
them.
only, we'll give them something that, so they all give you the price on the same job.
Yeah.
But to go out competitively, to publicly advertise, it costs money, plus you're gonna get the same people anyway. So
We'll see quotes versus bids.
Close, that's what I know.
they call it
Okay.
competitive.
Yes, you're right.
All right, and did you want to do anything on the, CIP?
I do,
effort?
I leave it, I mean, I think it makes me crazy, so I think it's up to the board members. I vote yes. I
Make a motion.
make a motion that we have by priority, a wish list or CIP project list, and we see the cost at today's numbers.
And what we'll do is renew the CIP program, that they'll prepare something and then we'll incorporate it into your next budget when you're.
Exactly, just, we can't operate without it.
Did you get the outline,
Yeah.
one page?
Yeah.
So are you asking Whole Montez to basically do what they listed as things that should be done?
Yeah.
Is this, and then for not to exceed, let's say $25,000?
Well, I'll let you, cool.
Little part to come.
Right, come on, we're friends, 30
I have a
years.
pool in my
All right.
backyard,
If
right?
we have a motion by Mr. Jensen to have a CIP program recreated for presentation to the board at a not to exceed amount of $25,000. Okay, we need a second if this is going to be discussed.
I second that.
Okay, now it's open for discussion.
I think that's done.
I think we did. We
Well,
did.
how many-
Okay, then-
25 grand, how many hours of work are you putting into this? I mean, that's a considerable sum, 25,000 for a list.
The first step is gonna be developing that list of assets, getting a good handle on what you do own, when it was built. You know, a lot of the information we do have in-house, but some of it will need to come out, do some assessments, look at the roads itself, see what kind of condition they are in. Same thing with the drainage, do a quick inventory of the drainage, how they are, how they look. Ron's got a pretty good handle on the utility side, but we want to go with Mitch and make sure we get the list of stuff, the smaller projects, the 25,000.
It might be less.
David?
This is a not to exceed. It's a time and materials proposal.
So you're gonna put
And,
that all together in a proposal, how much time.
It'll be
is
by the hour, by the person working on it. What,
You just
What-
put a cap on what they, the project will expend.
yeah, I'm trying to think, for that project with the average hourly rate of the people working on it, again, using county fee schedule, it's what, $140 an hour average or
Probably.
something like that. So you divide 25,000 by 140, that's how many man hours. I mean, and we're just guessing it. And we could put together, a little schedule, about who's gonna work on it and how many hours, and it'd be a guess also.
Yeah. And what we're
And
going
that's how-
to do is bring it back to you.
That's
so
how
you
we
can
get
review it and
$25,000 jobs
finalize.
with the county.
Yeah.
Same thing, we come up with a guess and put it not to exceed, and you bill by the hour. we're known to.
And you're gonna schedule
We're known
it
not
out.
to bill hours that
Yes,
aren't
we'll,
needed.
we'll present a schedule, a preliminary schedule for you to review, and then we'll finalize from there.
That's fine, that's what we need.
Yeah.
It's no excuses, need it done right, or us no excuses,
Yes.
on you.
And not to, because it's just going to drag out, but something like this doesn't happen in a month.
No, I don't.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Next item, the next two items are also engineering, and one was a question on what it would take to do lighting of the bridge.
Well, both those items, the bridge lighting and the street reduction, I'll talk to both of those together. It's a DOT roadway, so first step is we need to go meet with DOT, find out what their thoughts are, what they would even consider doing, and so forth. Right now, as far as like signage on the bridge, right now only the westbound is posted for no fishing. The eastbound, for whatever reason, has never been posted for no fishing, and that might be because of the buffer that is there between the edge of the through lane and also the bridge itself. You've got you've got a shoulder and also a bike path through there. That provides a pretty good buffer.
And sometimes with DOT, if you have a public entity or a group of residents that, petition DOT to make a change, then they may do it. I mean, they have a process. I mean, it's state government, so you can guess. But it would, the CID could be one of the entities, and then maybe the residents sign a petition if you end up having to go through that process with DOT.
Well, maybe you could write up some type of petition if we have a big group showing up February. We could have people sign it then.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be something that you may need or may just be helpful.
May not hurt.
So yeah, maybe that's the way I think to do that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And then we can approach DOT with the fact that we've got these concerned citizens and so forth, and see what we can negotiate basically. I see probably a pretty strong potential that we might be able to get a speed reduction there, or at least some advisory signage to reduce speed, congested area, because you've got multiple driveways coming off that.
Thank you.
If we could you have that petition ready for the 10th? And we'll
Sure.
present it at both the 10th and the.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Mhm.
Then you get 2 readings.
Okay. Anything else on those 2 items? The next item then would be the filling the vacancy currently existing on the board. You have 3 resumes of candidates that submitted interest. You have Ms. Kellmeyer, Ms. Bradkey, and Dr. Leischier, and their letters of interest are on pages 47, 48, and 49. You had discussed an interest in having each of them make a presentation to the board, then the board would discuss proceeding with that. Is that still?
Absolutely.
Okay, do you want to follow the order that they were put into the agenda packet? Or do you want to do it alphabetically? Do you know?
Any way you want, flip a coin, whatever you want.
Yeah.
I just want to be heard.
Yeah, okay. Well, why don't we start with the page 47, and that'd be Ms. Kellmeyer. So.
Thanks, Cal. Thanks, board. Catherine Kellmeyer, everybody knows me. I was on the board from 2016 to 2020. I was not reelected. Michelle got seat 5. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And to Ray for seat 1. And we dearly miss Noreen and hope she's doing well. I would like to thank the people that commented on their friends that were here that support them, because I think myself and Sam also have a support group here. We're just not as vocal as the other possible candidate was. I want to let you know that I've been a registered voter at the fort since 2007. The board already has this, so if you don't mind, I'll go through the bullet list, but I'll address the board. I did the monthly ride-arounds with Robert Soto regarding the landscaping. I also did that with Noreen before I was on the board for a good many years. When the new water plant was going in and Helen Montez was putting on their open house, I coordinated having everybody call me with the reservations so there was a good number for food. I've been a resident here since 2003, and I'm going to take a date of about 2005-ish. I've been attending the CID meetings since 2005. Even at that time, I was getting the monthly reports that were available to the supervisors, so I had the input monthly then. The Christmas decorations, everybody knows Newport Drive had some. That kind of stopped this year. One of the big things I have done for the port is being on the master board for Sunset Cay at Port of the Islands Master, which is 192 units. I was treasurer and also president. Right now, I am a licensed CAM through the state of Florida. I have managed my own building, which is only 8 units. We're that small. Everybody over there is either 8 or 12 units. Doing the CAM, I need continuing education credits. There's different areas, landscaping, legal, financial, that I need to get CEUs for. So every year, 2 years, I've exceeded what was required. It was 20 credit hours. It's now down to 15. So if I've exceeded that, for the marina, I'm an owner on B2. I do go to the meetings either on the phone or in person, depending on where I am. I'm right across from the marina, so I have a pretty good view of everything that's going on. And we just walk across the street, so we see what's going on with the marina. History, work history, secretary, bookkeeping, a Catholic church, a large manufacturing facility, advertising, promotions company. I was even at the local hospital as a temporary in HR and in billing. The port is my forever home. I love it here. I wouldn't want to be anyplace else in Florida. I want to continue to serve the people, both here, my building, down Newport Drive, Cay's Drive, here, there, everywhere. So it's just serving the people, and I would like to continue to do that, and I'd appreciate your support. So, and your appointment, and that's about it. Any questions?
Only because I've worked with you, on the board. So, one thing I do like the fact that you're involved with the marina.
Yeah.
You've always given us a lot of input on that.
On the marina.
Yeah.
And as far as, I did a personality test quite a few years ago with my continuing education, and detail-oriented, organized, not so well at speaking. I did better at the thing over there for the meet and greet. I did better there than I am here. You can tell it in my voice. So I apologize for that. I'm not that way at the meetings, though, am I? No, anyway, very strong sense of what's right. Those are just some of the qualities that came out through this process of this personality test. So again, thank you. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Other questions?
Can the audience ask questions about it?
It's really your decision. If you want to
If
open
there's
it
any
up.
comments or
Yeah,
questions?
comments or questions?
Absolutely.
I'm Kathy Oswald. I live 2 buildings down from Catherine, and I'm not in the loop because I work full-time, so I wasn't even aware that she was up. I didn't know there was an opening on the board. But I do have to tell you that when Catherine was on the board at CID and on her master association, she gets things done, okay? She's detail-oriented. I've known her since 2003 when she moved in. I lived there a year before she did, but I've known her since she moved in. And I think she's a wonderful, wonderful candidate. Thank you, Catherine.
Anyone else? All right, that would take us to Miss Bradkey. I hope she's here. She had
I
to.
am here.
Okay, good. Yeah, she got her COVID vaccine.
Yes, I do.
Wasn't sure she could make it.
Good morning, everybody, friends, neighbors, board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I was thinking about what I would say, and people came up and spoke on my behalf, which I'm very grateful for, as I'm sure you are. And I appreciate this opportunity. My husband and I, retired from Northern Indiana in 2016 and came to live in the Port. And we have loved it every sunrise and sunset since. When we first came here, we were both newly retired and felt like we were on vacation in paradise. We could go to the marina, we could go to the hotel, we could go for a walk, bike ride. I've biked in all of your neighborhoods. So it's just been a pleasant place to live. The old hotel certainly has been a challenge. And listening to the history, I am so impressed with how dedicated you guys have been to get that thing taken care of. And now we're at a point where it has been taken care of. It's an answered prayer of sorts. But that also means, in the wake of that, that there is development, more than one. That's always good. My work history has led me in nursing to be a director of an ICU CCU, which means budgets and finance inventories and interaction with families and audits. Those are not always easy or pleasant. You don't always become the best person in the world that everybody likes. But if you manage it properly, everybody comes out feeling okay. I did that for many years, went to Okinawa, Japan, worked in the hospital there, came back stateside, worked as a nurse, and then my husband and I began the rigorous training of adopting and raising lead children. Again, budgeting, financing, not always a popular person on the topic, but it taught me many lessons of a different nature about time efficiency, money efficiency, etc. And then I took a position as the assistant director of admissions for a collegiate preparatory boarding school in Northern Indiana. As the assistant director, we were responsible for recruiting 800 students. We also had the responsibility, so not only did we have enrollment numbers to meet, we also were in charge of scholarship financial aid monies to the tune of $1.2 million. We were the bottom line for students of need, those are not academic achievement. But you still have to go to the board at the end of the day with where that money went, how it went, and was it well spent. And I think we did a good job. We kept our enrollment to the number every year. And then once my husband decided to finish his 50 years of medical, I don't mean to stand up.
No, that's okay, it's okay.
Sorry, I should move over here.
It's fine.
I kind of like that view.
After my husband, who I thought would die in his little blue police emergency room, after he decided that Port of the Islands was probably where he wanted to spend the remainder of his days, which I love. Forever comments, forever community, I love that. We came down and shortly thereafter, Irma hit us. And I was reminded again how important water is. So the emphasis that you guys have put on talking about that water plant, looking forward to making sure that we have the money for things that may go awry with the water plant, that's music to my ears. Due diligence is important to me. I've long lived by a mantra that is leave a place better than you found it every single time and do it with due diligence. So I would like that opportunity. I thank you for the opportunity for introducing myself to you, and thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Questions?
What about from the audience? Any questions, comments? Okay, that would bring us up to Dr. Samuel Lashir. Did I say that right?
Perfect.
Okay.
I always say you can call me anything you want, just don't call me late for dinner. My name's Samuel Shear. I've lived in the port since 2009. I live on Cage Drive. We moved here. I'm a retired dentist, been in practice for 40 years, and I'm retired. I was also in the Air Force for 27 years, 24 years reserve, 3 years active duty. I was the past president of Stella Maris Master HOA. When I took over our presidency, we were a little short on money to redo all our roofs to the tune of about $400,000. And we needed brand new roofs, $1 million project. I spearheaded that. We got that accomplished. We needed to repaint. We got that accomplished. We also needed brand new fiber optic in our community because the DSL that was there wasn't working. So we got CenturyLink to come in and we got that accomplished. Those things were great, but I think my biggest, strongest point for what we did for my group at Stella Maris South was we tried to get things in order with our governing documents to make sure that we don't get into a situation like that again, where you got $1 million project and you're just $400,000 short. I was also an elected member of the City Council of Pocomoke City, Maryland, which is about 4,000 people. I had 3 terms of 3 years. Our budget there was about $1 million to $1.5 million, and that's all I can tell you about it. But I appreciate the opportunity to be able to apply for this, and if that's your position, that would be great. Thanks for the opportunity.
I have one question.
Yes.
When you assisted Stella Maris in getting new roofs, and it appears probably at the time there was no reserve to do this, or how did you go about that?
Well, there was a reserve that had been established in the past. Kind of like your capital improvement budget. You've got to look at what it's going to cost 30 years from now, and you have to influence or add into that the CPI or whatever inflation. Because if you think it's going to cost $600,000 in 30 years, by the time you get to 30 years, it's $1.5 million. So if you don't factor in inflation in that, you're not able to do it. We had approximately $300,000, maybe $600,000, but we were $400,000 short just to be able to do our roof. So the first thing we had to do was to go through a special assessment project. That was a lot of fun, to be able to get people to cough up about $7,500 extra to be able to get our job done, which we did.
That was an individual assessment?
Individual assessment, $7,500 each. So yes, that's how we got it done. But that was not popular, I think.
Oh, no.
It's not popular to come in and say, hi, welcome to the community. And by the way,
it's like Stella Maris North.
Bingo.
It's horrible what's happening.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
and I'm afraid of getting hit by lightning even saying this word, but how did you organize CenturyLink in your area?
How do we organize it?
If I read your bio correctly, you had something to do with CenturyLink coming into where you live.
Oh, absolutely. What happened was, again, as I said, we were talking earlier, we had DSL in our community, which was just not functional. And we knew we had something to do. Stella Maris North and some of the areas on the other side in the Newport Cays area had just had CenturyLink comes through. So we actually found out who to contact, which was a gentleman by the name of Mark Sitai. And Mark came in and presented us what they could do. It was fairly simple for us simply because when they finished off Stella Maris North, it was just a matter of running the lines to us and then digging in the lines to all our residents. So, we just made the contact and went from there. We also contacted Comcast and talked to them about, coming down here, but their response to us was, unless you get everybody on K's Drive to be able to do this, they weren't going to even bother coming down to talk to us. And I have a hard enough time convincing 50 people to spend a little extra money to do something. I certainly wasn't going to, and there was there's no HOA or whatever in the resident side, the home side. So there was no one to speak to about, and I couldn't speak to 100 individual people and say, well, would you like to come in on this deal? So that's how we did it. We just sort of piggybacked on to Stella Maris North, but then went from there.
You and I spoke by email, and two things. One, I really don't want to forget. You retired as a colonel.
Lieutenant Colonel, yeah.
I want to thank you for your service to America, more than anything else. You told me that you and your wife travel in the summer. How long do you usually go?
Usually about 2 months. Yeah, and I'm an RVer, which, by the way, the place.
We got a spot for you.
Yeah, right here. The place you're looking at, I'm also on several Facebook pages with RV owners of the same. The place, the gentleman, the company that you're looking at has a very, very good reputation in our RV industry, and that is, you're right, the Tides is a very nice RV park.
Amazing.
Very nice. It's not like coming in and you're going to find a whole bunch of, campers or whatever, but a Class A or what they usually do are fifth wheels, which are the ones you'll see that are on the back of the truck, usually not a whole lot of travel trailers, but those are expensive. Those are expensive rigs. They're not coming in and you're going to have it isn't going to be a Christmas vacation with what was his name? Cousin somebody. What was his name? No, the one that was, Driscoll. Yeah, the Driscoll. It isn't like that at all. We're talking high end.
You understand where I was going with the description.
Oh, absolutely.
Because park models would be the kiss of death.
Oh, yeah, no.
So, but a high-end RV place would be a very big plus.
Oh, yes.
Done correctly.
That's correct.
And the Tides is done correctly.
Right. And I'm not sure of, what you own as far as land here, but I'm sure that there's a way to try to get it so they can minimize the amount of the RVs coming in and out of Union Road here, so that that you're not having a large influx of RVs coming in and out. Most of the time, this type of park is going to be a place where, as they said, people come for 6 months, 3 months. They're going to be here in the winter. You'll have a few people here in the summer, but not a lot. They have a tendency to head up north where they think it's a little cooler. You'll get more traffic here now during the winter season, but summer season it'll be fairly thin.
Right. Thank you. Good. Are there any questions from the board? No. Audience, any questions of Dr. Lechar? Okay, board, so it's up to you. If you're ready to
make a decision today, you can. If you want to
Anybody
wait,
got
that's up to you.
any overall comments?
I probably do. I like all three. It's going to be a very, very hard decision to make.
It's like we're on The Voice.
Pros and cons. My thing, I have one question. Rita, are you here all year?
I am here all year.
You're here all year, okay. I know that's not part of this because you can phone in or whatever, that's happened in the past. But I like the fact, I like the experience of being a councilman. I like Rita because of the various things she's been involved with. She has a little bit of business, budget, and working with residents. And Catherine, we all know what kind of job she did before. So it's a hard decision, but I think I like, I'm going to just say he's Dr. Samuel is where I'm leaning, but I'm not going to put a motion out till we all say,
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for everybody to.
Yeah.
We're waiting for you.
And
Spit it out.
this
All
is
right.
nothing personal.
All right,
It's
no,
hard.
they're all excellent candidates.
Yeah,
I have no
hard.
problem with that, okay? My problem is, there is no reality, there's only perception, okay? You understand what I'm saying? All right, you live at Orchid Cove?
Yeah.
You live at Orchid Cove? I own it over the cove,
Okay, you do.
okay? We put another person on here from Orchid Cove. And you're running for the board at Orchid Cove. It seems like there's a perception of off balance, okay? You and I are on the case, the doctor's on the case, okay? So I think, and we have one person that's viable for the whole other side, and she knows the marina. So my vote's for Catherine. That's just the way my mind works as a total. There's no representation at all from that side, and that's where most of the population is. So I think they would feel excluded without proper representation, and I think she's already given them proper representation and would continue to do so. So that's where I am.
A few words. What do you?
Aren't you lucky that's the case?
Use a timer.
Aren't you lucky, teacher? You're all right half the time. I agree it's a very difficult decision. And we want all three, I'd like all three of you to know, we want all three of you to know that this is a multi-million-dollar business we have here. And although we kind of joke about it and it's where we live and we love it, but it's a multi-million-dollar business. And it's a multi-million-dollar business that has a giant hole that we shovel money into called the water and sewer plant. I asked Cal, he manages, he's a district manager of 7 districts in Collier County, I think, or 2 counties. And I asked how many of your districts have their own water and sewer plant. 1. The county runs the rest of them. Guess which one is 1? And it's a giant proposition, as he's going to show you soon. Having said that, there's a couple important things that I think we need to get out in the open and out of our heads. One is, for 15 years, this place was run by 4 or 5 people from across the street, consecutively. And the only thing that changed it was when Tony Davis came on. And we never saw it, Orchid Cove never saw Tony Davis. I didn't even know if he lived there, but he does. So that's, in my mind, not a good argument. As far as I'm concerned, there are people that live at Orchid Cove that own properties across the street as well. You all go across the street to the restaurant. You all have boats over there. We got to get rid of this two-side idea. But the biggest thing is, I'm going to represent you no matter where you live. I'm gonna represent Lou way the hell in the back. And I think we all should be doing the same thing. There's no sides. There can't be any sides. Look, the next 2 years, you're gonna realize there better not be any sides. We got some big stuff coming. So whether they're from Orchid Cove, I'm from Orchid Cove, or whatever, it shouldn't make any difference because we've lived for 14 years with top-sided from across the street, and there's never been a problem. Has there? It's very fine-tuned. Very fine-tuned. And I personally feel that there's no substitute for one-on-one. I don't like Zoom. I don't like webcams. I don't like it. I don't like not being here with you, with them. I don't like it. There's a lot to it. So I always have had a problem with Catherine not being here for 5 months or whatever it is. Always had a problem. And I kind of have the same problem with Doc for 2 months. Now listen, if you've gone on vacation, you missed one meeting, that's okay. Most boards, they have a limit of meetings you can miss. But especially in the next 2 years, you gotta be here. There are times when I drive a 10-hour round trip to be here.
Ray, I hate to interrupt you, but when I came on the board in 2016, I came to the conclusion that I was going to come back for one meeting during the summertime. My anticipation was 2 in Ohio, 1 here, 2 back in Ohio. I would have rather have come back in July because it would have broken it up. It would have given me 2 and 2. I ended up coming back in August for the budget hearing and the public hearing that went with that. I came back a week's time. That's 2 days traveling, my expense. If you take this as a negative, I take this as a positive because this shows my devotion to this area. I have a husband, bless his heart, 83 years old. He says to me, I have another 20 years left. 20 good years. Now the years never change. It's always 20 years. Whether he's 80, 81, 82, it's always 20 good years. So as far as me being here, something was to happen to him or things changed, I'd be here in a heartbeat.
She told me that.
But
She moved down here in a heartbeat.
to say that that is a qualifying event to be here, I don't think it's right. Between Zoom and the phone on Bluetooth, I have not missed a meeting. I've always gotten the financials. I have always devoured all the paperwork that's come across anybody's desk. If you see this as a negative, I see it as a positive with my situation because it shows my dedication to this area. Thank you, Ray, for letting me.
This is supposed to be the board's discussion, and do you want to give the other 2 candidates an opportunity to make a comment also?
Sure.
Or do you want to
I'm not
just have me regulate that?
Yeah, that's okay. This is an open discussion. Catherine, this is gonna sound wrong, but again, we have a multi-million-dollar business, and we're deciding on a person that's gonna sit up here and be best suited. So the facts of the matter are, in the last election, 513 residents voted. 295 of them didn't vote for you. That's almost 60%.
What does that have to do with
It has everything to do with
No,
it.
it doesn't.
They
No,
didn't want
it
you
doesn't.
on the board.
No, I'm sorry. I don't think that filters into this. I think,
Of course it does.
I
They
think
would have
the
voted her on.
only issue is, and we have to realize this, it is
Please
not,
don't-
no,
please don't argue about
it is not a requirement that you're here all year. The requirement is you're a registered voter. Now, if we personally are not happy with someone being away and phoning in, then,
That's what I said.
but that's not a main feature as to a person we want on the board.
To me it is. I'm entitled
That's
to
your
my
priority?
opinion. Yeah, that's one of them.
You just disregarded my opinion, so.
Yeah.
Why? What was your opinion?
Then the perception is that there's too many people from Orchid Cove.
But it's true. For 14 years, the majority of the
But
people are from
who
across the
was
street.
fighting to get on this board for 14 years? I understand there was not enough
No.
candidates really who wanted to be on the board, right?
The last time there was.
Yeah, there were a lot.
The last time, but he's talking
Yeah,
14
this
years.
has been a community that hasn't had a
It's been
hard
very
time
quiet.
getting-
No.
Over the years.
And regardless, 80%
Russ
to
was up
100%.
against 3 or 4 people.
When, oh, no, we mean when
Yeah,
I went through the same thing these people are going through.
And years and years ago, Rico.
But they told me there was nobody gonna be at the meetings too.
Yeah,
I showed up and
Rico was
100
on the-
people show up.
Rico was on the board, he was on Report K.
Yeah.
And that goes back years and years and years.
But
Okay.
when we were elected on the board, Tony was on the board, who was
Right.
from Orchid Cove. So
Right.
using that argument, we should
Mhm.
replace it with someone from Orchid Cove, which I'm not using that argument.
No,
I'm just
that was-
saying that your argument.
But that wasn't accepted
Right.
by a lot of people, that there were 3 on the
And
board from
the
Orchid Cove.
majority of people who voted for us are from across the street, because the majority of registered voters in Collier County are from across the street. That's my point.
Well, I'm sure all of us have heard from residents, their feelings, I have, about the 3 candidates, and
Sure.
I've had input from them, so.
Okay?
And you're.
I think that, for me, it's a problem. So, I want to really make it clear though, Russ, most of the time, 80% of the people on board are from across the street, so that has no impact. I'm not trying to counteract you. That's just a fact. This is the first time ever, other than Tony Davis, anybody from Orchid Cove has been on the board. And we were elected, majority of people over there. That's all I'm saying. It shouldn't get personal. I'm trying for it not to get personal. Okay?
The other thing about the election, which I thought was
I think this was
interesting.
mine, isn't it?
This is the board's discussion.
Yeah.
I know.
But you're still gonna interrupt.
Yeah.
Let the board discuss it. It's their meeting.
If,
I'm sorry.
All right, we've heard from you.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you
Unfortunately,
done?
I pretty much
Michelle-
got your idea. We know.
Yeah.
okay,
So who did you say?
I'm gonna vote for Rita.
God, that makes me the decider, doesn't it?
Are you gonna vote or we're just
No, we're just
discussing?
discussing about who. I think that the voters, I agree with Ray as far as the voters have spoken. I got elected, and so I think they chose me over Catherine, and so I don't think appointing her on the board would be a good idea, because they already voted her off of the board. Our community. Second thing is, I am a marina owner too, so you do have that. I will start going to meetings we just recently purchased. We bought a slip over there, yeah. So, you do have that aspect that Catherine, you said, was bringing to the board. Okay, so of the other 2, I could live with either one, but I prefer Rita because she's here all year and knows the community really well.
Okay.
Well,
So, you've got support for all 3 candidates, and,
Just
sure.
one question. If that ends up happening, that means that 80% of the board will be represented from Orchid Cove. Right. Because you've got 3 there right now, so now you've got 60%. And you pick, the other candidate that lives there, that means that 80% of the board lives in Orchid Cove. And again,
There's,
you're talking about perceptions.
right.
And, Ray, you could put a whole dissertation on next door about how people are thinking that you're just working for Orchid Cove over there.
Right.
And to try to change perceptions, I think it would just look better if you didn't have 80% of the board represented in Orchid Cove.
My point
May I
is,
have something to say?
Yeah.
It's
Is
not
this a
about.
board discussion?
It is, but that's okay.
I just want to make one statement.
it's okay.
I just want one quick statement. Perception is fine, but who's gonna get the job done? And I also agree it should be Rita, because she's very knowledgeable and she knows, and both Michelle and Ray know lots of people on the other side. And for many years, I've owned the place for over 13 years. For many years, it was all the other side. Nobody did.
Because nobody else ran.
But it wasn't a problem then.
It wasn't, because we.
Whether somebody ran or not, it was all from over there. That's the argument.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if
It
it's.
doesn't matter.
Well, because it didn't even exist until.
It's the
what,
right
5 years
people
no
that
difference.
need to be on the board, and I think Rita is the right person.
Okay, well, for some board, it didn't even exist.
Okay.
I just have one last thing to say. I feel when I ran for this seat, I basically got the seat because of what I had to offer, which wasn't on the board at the time. So as far as I won because my opponent wasn't good, no, I can't say that. I think they had as much to offer as I did. I just happened to be what the community felt we needed. So I just want to say that.
Good.
So, we have to put forward a motion.
I'll make a motion to appoint Rita Bradkey to the board.
Is this just, that's it? I mean, if like she picks Samuel, they pick, if it's 2-2.
If you have to have 3 votes in support of a candidate. So, it's just a quick count, it was 2-1-1. There's not a 3-member support for either of the candidates right now. And you keep voting, unless somebody's not gonna change their vote, then it would just go to the next meeting.
And it's gonna be the same 3 people.
It could be that way. Somebody, at some point in time, you need to come up with, somebody's gotta change your vote.
Excuse me, Cal, was Anthony's term over? Because how much longer?
Well,
2 years.
Yeah, I think it's 2 years.
2 years.
2 years more?
Two
Yeah.
additional, he
So
wasn't just elected, he had already served 2 years. So he has 2 more years.
Oh, so.
Yeah, it's the unexpired term.
The 4 years.
So it's 4 years.
2
So
years.
it's gonna be
That
next
seat
year.
and my seat is up for
So that's a long time, okay.
Cal, if I may.
Let me just ask the board,
I'm
you
trying
still,
to-
let me ask the board, it's their meeting. Would you like to allow, and this isn't directed at Catherine, would you like to continue to allow public comments?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm trying to make it easier on you by saying, I will withdraw my request. I am out of it. Ray, I would like to add that the same number of people that voted for you did not vote for me and Michelle. Our seat was seriously lower than the number of people that voted for you. So that's not an argument with they picked her over me. Now, I am taking my name out of the mix. I appreciate you too. I enjoyed serving. Your decision is easier. So, thank you.
okay, sounds like you're down to 2 candidates. And we're still
I made the
at a
motion.
2-1-0. We do have a motion for Ms. Bradkey. Is there support? Hearing no support, the motion fails. Is there another motion?
I would like to see Dr. Sam on the board.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. O'Connell to appoint Mr. Lashard, Dr. Lashard, to fill that vacancy. Is there a second? Hearing no support, that motion fails.
Okay, wait a minute. All right, this Dr. Lashard.
Yes.
Yeah. You say you go away for 2 months.
Yes.
Is there any way you can guarantee that you would only be gone for 1 meeting over that 2-month period? That you could-
Catherine used to
In
come
other words,
back.
you could schedule it that you left the day after the 1 meeting, missed a meeting, and you would get back a day before the next meeting. and dial in on the other meeting.
And would it only be the summer months?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here all winter long. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to guarantee you that I won't miss more than one meeting. I've waited this long in my life to be able to enjoy my retirement, and I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to be, but I will say this. While I was president of the Stella Maris, while we were doing and in negotiations for all that we did, I was gone for several months at a time, but I called in for every meeting. We didn't have Zoom. We called in for every meeting, and I was kept apprised of what was going on. But if that is a requirement, then I would say you need to take the people that are here full time.
I can't let that be a deciding factor for me, your time that you're here. I'm trying to look at who can best fill the seat and be an advantage to this board.
That's really close. It's really close.
It is. But I still lean towards the fact of having, him be a councilman. Well, that gave him a lot of experience. And the work he did while he was on that board, that's the kind of work we need right now, the budgeting process for the construction in the future. So
I've been here since 2009. He's been here since 2009 also.
Yeah.
He's been here longer. Not that that's the thing. I mean, I've been here since 2006, but,
All right, so what do we do now?
Somebody can enter another motion. And
okay, I'll enter a motion for Samuel Bashir.
Okay.
I'll second.
Oh, we got a second for a motion. Okay, so let's see, that was Mr. Kish moved to appoint Dr. LaShire to fill the vacancy, and Ms. O'Connell supported.
So now what do we do?
We're going to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All opposed? You said no, right?
No.
Oh.
What are we voting on?
The appointment of Dr. LaShire to fill the unexpired vacant term of Mr. Davis.
The 2 years.
So.
And you're aye. Okay. Aye.
Okay, so that's 4-0. Congratulations, Mr.
Oh,
Dr.
we'll be sorry.
And,
I want to thank all you people for
Yeah.
run. I know it's your own kind of how it's to do that kind of thing, but thank you.
No, it's okay. Trust me.
It just shows you a terrible person I am.
yes, Ms. Bradkey?
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Bashir. And Catherine, value everything. I think this is going to be, perception-wise, so much better, easier fix for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for applying.
Thank you.
Okay, the decision's been made. Mr. Dr. LaShire has been appointed to fill the unexpired term. There's 2 years remaining, and we'll do the actual swearing in at the next meeting. And I'll have Chris Dudak get with you. I see we've got your email address, and he'll get all of the information that you need and to you. Okay? And the board, you could handle that at the 10th.
Yep, I think we should. I think we should get him on as soon as we can.
Okay. Well, he's on now, he just has to be sworn in. So on the 10th, you're going to plan on being at the special meeting on the 10th. And we'll do the oath of office at that time.
He's got to submit all those things.
Yes, yeah, Chris will send it. All right, now we are to supervisors' requests and comments.
I only have one thing to say with that. I want to give a heads up. I would like to start well before the budget hearings, looking into our rates for the ERCs, because we did raise them for the debt.
That's right.
And I'd like to see, like I said, well before the budget, I don't want to be rushed into this.
Right.
I want to see what, if any, we can get back to?
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, I've done some preliminary numbers, and it depends on what you want to set aside for CIP, but
I know, that's very
a minimum of 300
Yeah.
is easily doable and still keeping the sizable amount of money for the CIP.
Yeah, that's the platform I want to get on.
Yeah, okay.
Is that, okay?
We can start,
I'll start working
which is
with you.
good if you and I can work together. But once we get that dialogue going, what's good for the CIP is that it'll give us an idea. We know what our fixed costs are for the year to run the wastewater plant.
But we need to know future.
But you need to know future. So then if you and I come together, we can plug in, $200,000-$300,000 a year for improvements within the community,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
One other question. We have the North Hotel, which is a deadbeat. POI Realty is what?
That was Holocheck.
That was
Okay.
Holocheck.
Who's Lake Huron?
Lake Huron was a developer of the Orchid Cove, and they did not finish it. So those are the properties that were undeveloped. Some of them because of a lack of ERCs, and some of them I think was
So
just
for
space
now, we
restricted.
still, unfortunately, will be carrying Orchid Cove.
Pardon me?
Lake Huron will still be.
Yeah, it's a straw corporation.
Yeah.
It's straws.
Right.
Did
There's
it go
actually
to the
two.
tax sale?
I don't know if it was bought. It did go to the tax.
No, it's in land for sale right now. It's coming up in July.
So it may just
The
disappear.
vacant lots.
If it doesn't get sold, then it disappears for tax.
Well, they just sheets back to the tax collector, but here's the key. At today's dollars, what's it gonna cost to replicate those buildings compared to 12 years
Yeah, I
ago?
understand that.
So you're right, that's where the hole is.
Yeah, it may just go to the county.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. O'Connell?
No, that's it.
Did you say you didn't think there were enough ERCs for the Orchid Cove units?
For some of them.
They
The
did,
ones that we
at the time, the developer was doing Orchid Cove.
Yeah.
There were not, he did not own enough, and nobody else out here was willing to sell at any price. And so he didn't have sufficient.
So they're still not there?
No,
We
well, no,
haven't sold
the
them.
CID has them. CID can sell them to somebody.
Right.
Because you now own them.
Gotcha.
But at that time, there were none.
Right.
They were all spoken for.
As you know, when those are sheeted over to the collector, the debt washes, everybody
That's right.
loses,
Yeah.
and now she owns them for free. So there could be a big, yeah,
Well,
that's
the
true.
county owns them.
Yeah, the county, that's right, the county. So then that changes that whole thing.
What do you mean changes?
Well, right now, there's 367,000 over on those lots. That goes away. And it just sheets over.
Yeah.
So then.
Guess what happened with the acreage back here, by the way?
But when
no,
it goes to the county, then the county
Then the
has
county
to
owns it.
offer them to other governmental agencies
Right.
first,
Right.
which CID is a logical party, but there's a whole process.
Right.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Jensen?
Those of you who are left here, just remember one thing when we had this meeting. You have one big choice to make. It's, if a development comes in, it's gonna change your lives forever as far as privacy. Let's face it. But if it doesn't come in, not too far down the road, we're gonna be looking for money again. That's why I wanna see this. So you need to weigh that out. And that's what you want to think about when you come to this meeting. It's how much do I want to look at this pasture? Is it worth another $500 a year, whatever it came up to, and not have development? Or is it worth it to be solid and have development, and what kind of development?
Okay, Ms. Holloway, when we get to audience comments. Ms. Holloway?
No comment.
Mr. Kish? Okay, that takes us to audience comments. Please state your name. Audrey Sanders.
Audrey Sanders. I first want to thank the board
Hello? Did I lose y'all?
Yeah, I lost him as far as
Yeah,
it's frozen.
Yeah, same with me.
I think they're about done anyway. If Cal indicates that he needs me, tell him to call me back.
Okay, we'll do. Yep. Looks like we lost him. Cal, are you there? Nope.
Beautiful park. And if you want to see what kind of park that this gentleman will be using or doing, you have to see Pelican Lake, not waves. When you have an RV park that's a luxurious RV park, they have all rules and regulations. You see, John and I have a lot of rules and regulations for open code, or POI has it for their people. The developers, it's going to be definitely gated. They're going to have amenities, like they probably will have a gym, and perhaps during summertime, and they don't have a lot of RVers, perhaps that even the community here could go into their gym and have a membership, because I know that they've done that in the past in other places around the country. They will have quiet time. You're only allowed to come and go at certain times. Your guests have to be registered. Then they have strict ordinances on pets as well, and regulations on pets. The trash has to be in and out on a certain time. They might even have a restaurant. They have amenities like pickleball, tennis, bocce ball, spa, gym. It is a luxurious area. I know that if you go to an RV park that is a luxurious RV park, it'll cost you more per day than it will if you go to a hotel. It will cost up between $1,000 and $200 a day to be in a luxurious RV park. So I don't want you to come to think that this is not going to be an asset for the community. It's not going to be trailer trash. But I know that the CID will have to be very cautious and really detailed, as Ray and everyone else said, of what they are expecting from this RV development. And the more you have in your contract, or whatever you say, would be the best for Walker Cove and POI.
Right.
So I do thank you for your due diligence, but I do want to make sure that people go out there knowing that it's not a trailer trash. It's going to be something that would be an asset to Port of the Island.
When you go home and you look online, and I don't know these guys, but I did go home and look online, because I don't trust anybody. If you go look at the tides up near Tampa, which they just opened, most of the coaches in the pictures cost 3 times more than Orchid Cove units. I mean, they're like $1 million. It makes a big difference. That's what we were getting at.
I just want to say, when you talked about it, there is what they call a Class C.
Yeah.
Class C could be a $400,000 or $500,000 RV. It's a Class A, and you don't, because you think of Class C, oh my God, what's a Class C? You know, that must be like a trailer. It's not. Class C is only a different way in the front. It's different. It's like more like a truck type than a Class A. But they are both very high-end type of machinery.
Yes, ma'am. Please identify yourself.
Kathy Oswald, Newport K. I agree with everything Audrey says. I worked part-time many years ago at Pelican Lake, okay? I know how beautiful it is. What my concern is with the RV, with the park that you're planning on, that is planned for here, is everything, all the beautiful ones are in Naples. You're 5 minutes away from Publix. You're 10 minutes away from town. Here, you're half an hour away. What happens if this developer comes in, brings in this beautiful property, they decide, I'm not getting the people I thought I was getting, so they lower their classifications a little, and then they lower it a little more, because they have to pay to pay the land, okay? That's my
think that'll be built in.
That's my worry.
Yeah, it'll be built in there, you know, they're not parkable.
Because it's a huge, huge adjustment to live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
As all of us know.
Well, it's coming.
You need to plan.
Look how you've grown in this area.
Yes, but you'll never have a Publix 5 minutes away. You'll never, not 5 minutes away, it's still 15 minutes away.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Oswald?
Okay, but that's not what, okay. I've got 2 questions. Number 1, when you all were talking about finances earlier. Oh, we might owe 500,000 on the bond, or we might owe 550,000 on the bond. I'd like to know, how much do we owe on the bond? That's what the whole finance thing is about, is to know exactly what we owe to.
It is about 500, and it's payable in May of this year, and we have the money to pay it, and we're done. All right, so.
We just don't have it here. You can call me at my office, I'll be able to tell you. That's, it's one more payment.
Right, okay, and then, as I said, I work full-time, I'm not able to get to these meetings too often. Why are we putting lighting, or considering lighting for the bridge? Why are we considering that?
That was me, right after that bear got hit out there, and I almost hit somebody.
I almost hit someone on the bridge.
They were on the bridge at night, and their car was over to the side, no reflectors, and I was coming over.
Okay.
It's
just my concern with that is people are gonna start fishing off the bridge whether they're supposed to or not.
Oh, yeah,
Just
yeah, we
because
know
it's
that.
gonna be
Yeah,
lighted.
but it just
All right.
was speed through there too, you know, I just want to slow it down.
My last question being, and I'm sorry I've got so many questions, but how do we change it so that if we have 5 people on board, just like we have on our master association, we have 2 people from Sunrise K, 2 people from the villas, or whatever it is, okay? I think it should be split up so that everyone is.
But that's no apply.
And you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's, the way the charter or the law is written.
How can we change that, Cal?
You could go to the state and try and get them to change state law.
Because
I mean, there could be
I
guidelines.
honestly feel right now, my community is not going to be represented.
Yeah.
That side, I'm not even talking Stella
So
Maris.
let me give you an example here. I'm on the fire board, and one of the seats are for Everglades City. There was a year it wasn't filled. They didn't have a person to fill it. And we didn't want it left empty, so we filled it.
I've just been told by people on Newport, I mean, on the next door.
Somebody's got
that
it.
since I don't know something, I shouldn't even bother being here. I've been
Okay.
told that. It was from
John,
somebody
you had your
before me.
hand up next.
John Dillon is here, president of Working Code Association. I would just like to say a couple things. Number one, I have full faith and confidence in the CID board, whoever is a member of this, to adequately represent both sides of the street. Okay? That's number one. Okay? Number two, anybody from an area, and I see this in Working Code, all they have to do is show up for a meeting. I've been here 5 years. I've been to almost every single meeting here for 5 years. I'm not one of those people that never came to a meeting complaining. I've been here for 5 years, going to every single meeting, and there's plenty of time for audience comments. The board has always been solicited for audience comments. I firmly believe that anybody that wants to be represented can be represented, whether they're on the board or not. I want to say that.
Thank you.
Okay, I think this gentleman over here had the hand up.
Dan G. Martinez, Orchid Cove. Yeah, with the potential of the growth we're having here, what's the possibility of having a sound barrier wall put up at the gun range? I think you're going to get a lot more people going back there, and it may even open up the days that they shoot. And it could be every day of the week.
I imagine.
Potentially.
Yeah, with an RV park, we're probably gonna get more complaints.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean.
They may end up doing it themselves.
Well, that's what is the step?
Believe it or not, there are firms out there, but you're right, we can hear it here. You're right.
I mean, mean, they do work. I mean, they put them along the highway all the
But
time.
I would assume that they'll probably have a curb this.
Yeah, I'm talking more of a wall.
Wall?
Barrier wall.
You should come to the meeting on the 10th, and you can tell them.
All right.
Say,
All right, anything else, sir?
40-foot
I mean, I don't even
barrier.
know who's responsible. I'm just saying how you could get it done.
Yeah, okay. We have a question right here.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Peak from Working Code. The bridge, it used to have a sign on both sides that said no fishing. The wildlife manager was here chasing fishermen off, and I asked him why he wasn't enforcing it. He said when Irma came through, the sign went down. He cannot enforce no fishing on the bridge with no sign. DOT puts the signs up, they not bothering with it. So you may not need the lights, you just may need to get somebody to actually put the signs up so the wardens can enforce the rule again.
Wow, no kidding.
That's what he told me.
I
right
believe
in the
it,
parking lot.
I believe it. Wow.
He said as long as the sign was down, he couldn't enforce it.
Makes sense.
Okay, yes, gentleman back here.
More fact, more control. As we progress with this, is there plans for just making them, if it does happen in the back parcel 13, can there be another access road put back there that they don't have to share this road? We just block it off. It becomes a drive.
You mean Union Road?
Yes.
No, I won't.
Well, Union Road
Did
is,
they say we own it?
the road they're using now is, that would be part of.
Are you saying change the road off
He's
41?
talking about making a private entrance into one.
Yeah.
Right, that would be the same road that they're currently using,
Right.
and that's part of the sale.
And
Right.
I don't think they're gonna.
Union
wanna
Road
drive
goes
over it.
back to the property the state owns. There used to even be homes there at one time, and that's a private or a public road all the way back there, although the state owns it, they put a lock on the gate. But we have to provide them access.
Okay. And the reason I ask is, we walk that road, we bicycle that road. The residents are pretty good. The people going to the gun club are not.
Right.
They accelerate through there. And I've been back there every day that I'm here, and I'm only here during the season. But the Maseratis and the Rolls Royces, regardless of the road, they go through there about 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? They don't care about pedestrians, there's no walkways, there's no nothing, they just motor on through.
Right.
I've seen people in old pickup trucks go slower than I've seen those. But if you're not in there and you don't walk the roads, you don't bicycle the roads, okay? I cringed when you said, let's make the road better. Hell, they're going through there at 40 miles an hour on potholes. I can't imagine once they get in there, if you don't put any speed bumps or you don't put anything there.
They don't go that fast up at the end we're talking about.
Okay.
negotiate.
You know, it's just, again, if I live across the street and I never go back there, it's out of sight, out of mind, I don't know a thing about it. But if I go back there, it's an issue.
Maybe we should have the sheriff watch it.
Well, you know, it's like, you know, you put all the signs you want here on 41, but you got 2 lanes coming in this way and 2 lanes coming in the other side. This is your passing area.
Yeah.
So I don't care how many signs you put out there. This is where I've ridden behind that person for 5 miles, and now it's 4 lanes. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to pass. It's not because I don't believe in the law. It's just because I'm going to pass because I'm going to go around. So you can say a lot of things, but that's reality. But what's actually going to happen? So please, again, as you go forward with it, you know, look at the contingencies and say, do we have the option of having a private drive? Okay? And let that traffic be that traffic. So be it. If they want that right, let them have that right. But what can we do to separate it from that? That's all I would say. Because that's reality.
The problem is where would you put it? It would have to be.
Well, again, that would have to be more
really
their
the
problem than ours.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, I see another hand here.
I'm gonna be talking to Ron after the meeting about potential specs for Union Road and how the Union Road can be made much safer if that project
the project is developed back there. But I think that's a greater possibility of addressing anything. I don't see a second road. But
No, yeah.
And just to let everybody know, when people go into the RV park with their RVs, and it could be a 40-foot or 45, which is the size of a bus, when they go in, they stay there. They're stationary. So if he was saying that he's having 3 or 6 month people that is in the park on their lots, they're just using their tow behind their car to go back and forth. They're not going to be using their RV. But I believe, as John said, that it does need to be safer, that road, and maybe even if it could be bigger or something, or even paved better, because that road's going to have a lot of traffic back and forth. And it would be unsafe even for bicycles. So even if you could put like pavers on the sides or a bicycle lane or something where people could walk as well as use their bicycles, this way it would not impact onto the traffic. I think that's something that you could ask the developer to help and get it.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident there's going to be some changes
Has to be.
if they do an RV park back there, because, as you said, the big units are 48 feet. I mean, to make a turn on some of those turns that are there around the hotel right now, I mean, there's going to have to be upgrades to the road. That's where we need to work with whoever the prospective developer is to have, because they're going to have to meet county standards and everything else.
Can you get with Ron afterwards? Other comments from the residents?
I just have a little, my husband was in construction. He worked for GL Homes. The things that they had to do in order to be able to build that community, if we do allow this RV resort, we can make a stipulation of that developer. It's like, you need to develop that road.
Okay, all right, there's gonna be an
Just
open
saying.
forum on the 10th,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So let's,
Yeah, we'll discuss it
yeah,
then.
otherwise, we're gonna keep talking here.
Right.
I kinda wanna adjourn.
You want to go to work?
Any other comments from the audience? All right, we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
There'll be bike lanes and everything else.
Oh, that was a motion to continue?
Hey, Catherine, I'm sorry, I had to respond. I have never.